Okay. Apparently I'm live. Now I need to check this out. Something is happening and I have no clue. So let me just my channel. Yeah, live now. So copy link. Copy link. Let me just check it out. Yeah. Okay. So I see that 15 people are watching. You guys hearing me okay? I have there's something weird. And it's weird. That's all I can say. So welcome everybody. And there's some kind of weird thing happening with I can't connect with my software. So I'm actually streaming with Google. I'm using the Google browser and using the YouTube Studio in the Google browser. So the link has changed, unfortunately. And but man, I'm just gonna go to the Facebook page and change the link to the live show, guys. I go here, and I'll just post a new link. So live show is here. Should bring everybody to the correct place. And Canadian International. Sorry, guys. I'm just doing the little change here. Shortwave live show is here. I'm going to work with that for tonight, but I need to have I will need to have that fixed by Friday. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's due to the pop-up chat, my software not connecting correctly and something different happened, or if it's just a YouTube issue. I was looking for the reason why that couldn't work. So when I tried to actually link to the show, it gave me an error that said cannot. The exact error was cannot retrieve event profile or something like that. Yes, Mr. Paul, that's what happened. So hey, guys. My co-host is here, Mr. Paul. Unfortunately, the camera is not well placed for that. Here's Mr. Paul. So anyways, as long as everybody can find me, I think that's the most important thing. And I've got my statistics, and as long as we work at the stream. So it sounds right and it looks right. Yes, they are backwards because for some reason that the way that the Google Chrome actually uses the camera, it reverses the camera, and I've got no setting. No, there's like, this is like the most basic thing in the world. I actually see it that it's like everything is just reversed. So we'll have to live with that for today, and I'll try to have it working back to normal by Friday. We're gonna try to have that, anyways. So hello, and a little bit of technical difficulties, but it happens. It always happens. It always happens when everything is trying to. It's not reversed there. Oh, it's reversed here. So you guys are okay? Because I have it reversed here. It's really reversed. Weird. So I guess it's not reversed for you guys. Okay, at least if it's not reversed for you guys, it's okay. That's the important thing. Okay. Because it does, like on the it does on the camera. I got to be using the when I use my phone, you got to use the back camera because the front camera is actually reversed. So welcome everybody, and nice to have everybody here. Sorry for the lateness, a little bit lateness, but technical difficulties happen apparently, and well, I've had my share today. So I'm just gonna post the chat a little here. So here's cool. So I like to see how many people are actually watching. So hey everybody, and so I'm actually streaming directly from the Google Chrome browser, rather than using my software that I use usually, because it can't connect for some reason. So I'm gonna take my beer. I got a beer today, and I hope everything is all right. And that's the important thing, so that the live show can happen today. So nice to see everybody in the chat, and hope that you have a nice show. So today I've got a black currant flavored Belgian ale. So it's the same name, FML, but they make different variants over the year. So this one is a black currant flavored Belgian ale. So yes, beer day. I was kind of going a little crazy here, like it's not working, And I was like, oh man, what's gonna happen? Am I gonna have to postpone the stream or what? So I'm just gonna let it go down a little bit. So okay. What else? What else? We're gonna have we're gonna check it out. So I'm gonna go down slowly in the chat. So okay, welcome to the Shortwave Radio Live Show. This is a show we are here twice a week on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, 0 UTC. On Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. That's 20 hours UTC. Wow. Okay. Just now it's my other PC with the SDR on it that's telling me, "Oh, you want to restart? There's a new update." No, not now. Remind me later. Okay, here we go. So everything's happening at the same time, I guess. My name is Gilles, located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and we talk about radio on this place. And we have questions from Elizabeth that's watching and said hello in the email as I was trying to fix things. And also at the same time, there's we have somebody else that is in the UK, Edward, that has asked for a few questions also. And I thought that, what, these are kind of fun. A lot of you have been enjoying this and enjoying the fact that with these questions, we also learn at the same time, especially when, you're a newbie, if you're a newcomer to the hobby. Don't forget, there's a beautiful, wonderful, amazing chat room. And we're almost a Facebook group also. And we're almost at 500 members in the Facebook group, which is really cool. So almost 500 members. Paul the Cat is looking at me like intense. And this is cool. We were 11 away from the Facebook group. The Facebook group contains the same name, is the same name as this channel, official SWL channel. And of course, it's a nice group. Really, a lot of people, a lot of fun people. I actually got 4 or 5 messages and emails this week of different people saying that they really, really enjoy the Facebook group. Some of you, actually, a couple of you told me that you'd been on other Facebook groups and that you actually removed yourself from some of these groups because you found that it wasn't really a nice place, and you were talking about how some were racist, and there's nothing of that here, and I don't want that. Actually, anybody that would be racist or would be bad, it's an auto ban, and I mean it's banned. It's banned for sure. I mean, I will not accept any racism or any comments that will, diminish or that will, belittle anybody. This is not the place for that. And if you are that kind of idiot, we don't want you. We don't want you here, and we don't want you on the Facebook group, and that's for sure. So, of course, Mr. Paul the Cat decided that he wanted to come on me here rather than be in the chair. So, anyways, it's I'm happy that you guys find that the group is cool and it's a nice place to be, and I'm really happy to have actually created it. Like I said, I should have created that, a long time ago. Honestly, that group should have been done many, a couple of years ago, actually. And we're almost at 500, so really, really nice. And why not join in, share what you're listening to, and have some fun. So, with all this stress of having the stream not working, well, cheers, everybody. Yeah, that's not for you, man. So, Mr. Paul, saying hello to everybody. Okay. Chat room. Hello there, Kevin Wood. Nice to have you here from Nova Scotia. Mark Cope. Nice to have you here. Delva65 from New York City. Rob from Phoenix, Arizona. TV Radio 72. Nice to have you here. Matambali in Colorado. Pablo M. Nice to have you here. Jay Bacon. Nice to have you here. Rufus Newt from the Laurentian Valley, Ontario. Nice to have you here. Michael Anger. Nice to have you here. Kathy Atkins. Hello there. Radioactive. Nice to have you on board. Prasad Asaldekar. Nice to have you here, Prasad from India. Glenn Finney. Nice to have you here. What else do we have? Blues Dude. Nice to have you here, my friend, from the winter wonderland of Baton Rouge. Today's high temperature was 78 Fahrenheit. Wow. That is perfect weather to go outside and just enjoy radio. Joseph, nice to have you here from Northern California. Northern Dawn, nice to have you on board. Says Google need to improve the servers. John, nice to have you here from East Tennessee. Mitch, nice to have you here, Mitch from Buckeye, Arizona. Bobby Burgess, nice to have you here. So, like I said, unable to connect with the software. Oh, can I? I'm just going to check. There's a lot less features in the online Google Chrome thing. Yes, I want this option so I can see what time it is that you posted your comments. I want to know what time, so I know I like that because it tells me how far behind I am. Also, at the same time with the chat room, already 103 viewers, so at least people are finding me. One little trick, by the way, when if something happens like this at the same time with the chat room, already 103 viewers, so at least people are finding me. One little trick, by the way, when if something happens like this, you click videos. It always shows the first video is always the one that I'm live, and it says actually live on it. So if you, for some reason, find it weird, just go to the channel, click videos, and it's going to tell you, well, oh, you're live. He's live here. This is a live feed. So what's interesting here that I don't see on the regular feed through Google Chrome, I can see a number of people that actually thumbs up. So I can see 102, I can see 20 thumbs up, which is nice. 21 thumbs up now. Anyways, my software is just going to connect. I was going a little crazy, honestly. I was like, oh man, I didn't want to postpone, I didn't want to have to, I was thinking, well, can I quickly, do it with my phone if it doesn't work with the software. And anyways, I've been thinking of changing the software to stream because of a lot of more options the software can offer me. So you know what, maybe it's an excuse also at the same time to kind of force me in and go into the OBS studio more seriously and have it use it as a streaming. But YouTube, sometimes I was looking at YouTube streaming on a website. There's a website that shows where YouTube is down, for example, and I did see that there's more problems than usual at this time, and maybe it's related to that. I don't know. So what else do we have? Old Radio Man, nice to have you here from Northeast Tennessee. Linux DOS, nice to have you on board. Larry in Georgia, nice to have you here. We have Glenn Zeckman, nice to have you on board. Gustavo Pinto, nice to have you here from Brazil. Brent in Brockville, Ontario, Canada, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? VE3KRP, nice to have you here. What else do we have? John McClure, nice to have you on board. Danny Shortwave Radio DX from Yonkers, New York, nice to have you on board, of course, as usual. How's can somebody tell me what the stream quality is? Is it streaming in 720p or 1080, out of curiosity? Because I have no access to any of that information on the here. It's a very basic, that when you I'm streaming through Google Chrome, so it's very basic interface, honestly, and I barely see what's happening. What else? Dave Bellil, nice to have you here, my friend. Andy Coley, nice to have you on board. We have Greg Efferon, nice to have you here from Paris. Bonjour, Greg. Et bienvenue. What else do we have? Kevin Jane Apollo, nice to have you on board, my friend. And Kevin is, oops. Let me just refind where I am. So, coming down, guys. Trying to find it here. So, hello there. Oh, yeah. Okay. WS2H is MLA30 denied entrance due to the coronavirus. Oh, really? And the XH data D808 arrived today. No audio to speaker or headphone jack. Oh, really? Really? That is a bummer. No audio to the headphone or speaker. Have you tried resetting it? There's a way to reset the radio, just in case it was. Man, that's a bummer. That is a bummer. Blues Dude says, for a backup on Friday, be a pirate on HF. B3J8, nice to have you on board, my friend from snowy Fort Wayne, Indiana. So today was very nice here. Today, so in total, just to give you guys an idea, so we had a storm last week on Friday, and we had more snow over the weekend, and in total we got 55 centimeters of snow, which is almost 2 feet. And so there's a lot of snow, and I shoveled my way out. Actually, I heard the siren. They're actually going to remove the snow on. There's one side of the street where the snow is removed now, but they're going to remove the snow on my side of the street. So we had a lot of snow, and today was beautiful. Today was like a spring day, but with a lot of snow. Actually, felt like a sugar shack day. Um, and so today's nice, but tomorrow we're gonna have like a few inches of snow, and it's gonna drop to -23, -24. So it's gonna be real cold in the next few days. Michael Langer, waiting weeks on two connectors, scared to open them. Nah, you shouldn't be scared. It's not a way you're gonna get the coronavirus. Jim, nice to have you on board. Going to call Paul and tell him to start the show. Oh man, Glenn Zeckman from East Tennessee. David Martin. So how do we know this is the real Jill and not an internet imposter? Maybe I have a twin. Maybe I have an evil twin that starts streams. That would be something. Nice to have you here from Dallas. Man. Yeah, well, there's always, I've three ways to Brent. I've got three ways to stream. So my favorite way is with the software because the software gives me a lot of control over what I can do and change the settings of the camera, the microphone, and everything. And it also gives me a lot of possibilities and visual aspects of the quality of the stream and stuff like that, which I don't have in the YouTube Studio in Google Chrome. But if that doesn't work, and that's the first, of course, that I always go to, I had two other ways to try it. I had YouTube Studio Live through Google Chrome, or I could just be using my phone and start the stream from the phone, which is not the best idea, the best way to do it, but it works really, really well from the phone. So I have ways to do it in another. The only the only time when it might not work actually is if YouTube itself has a big problem. I'm just gonna let Paul the cat out and put the camera up at the same time. Always close the door. And so this is what happens. There's a lot of those little things that I can find a way to I really can find a way to stream if all fails. But my favorite way was really through the Wirecast software. But now I wanted to do it through the OBS Studio because it gives me more options for free. Because Wirecast is not a free software; it's a paid software, and there are two types of licenses. The basic license that I purchased for something like $20 gives you access to streaming and all of that. And there's the other license, which is like $100 that opens up Wirecast to all sorts of effects, removing the background and stuff like that, which maybe that's what I should get actually. But Wirecast has one thing that I hate in software, and it's that every time there's a new version, they're asking you that $100 again on every version. And I always hate that. I like software that, you purchase it for $100, but you get the next version free. That's what I like. When you have to pay $100 every time, it's kind of annoying. But I don't know. I gotta say, I'll try OBS Studio, and if I don't like it, because OBS has one problem, it's kind of complicated to try to find out how to use it. It's not user friendly. Wirecast is actually very user friendly. So That's the problem. That's the problem. So, anyways, I'll be checking that out, and of course, I'll be you know finding a way to stream, and you always want to have also the stream to be very um something that's going to work every time you want to do a live show. Rob says, love those updates at the worst times. Yeah, in my case, it's a little my fault because the machine that I'm running the SDR, Rob, is an insider machine, and we had a new insider build today, which took very long to install, and it just wanted to restart now. So I said, nah, that's not the time. Later. Linux DOS, while my shortwave rig is in the shop, been using Sangean to tune the AM bands at night. There's still a lot of activity on the AM band. Yeah, I like that. Often what I do is when shortwave is crappy because of propagation or nothing interesting, I often do that. I take a portable and I go to the AM band with it, or I'll tune the SDR and AM. Gustavo Pinto says in Brazil, to do a cat is to hotwire power supply. Oh, really? Everybody saying hello to Elizabeth. Bobby Burgess, nice to have you here. WA5107 SWL. Northern Don watching the stream on his new phone. Cool. Shelly, nice to have you on board. Yeah, it stream changed, Shelly. That's why. So everybody saying hello to Elizabeth. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Greg Efferon says, nice cat. Patrick Manny, nice to have you here. Danny Shortwave Radio DX added a copper tube to my second MLA and loop antenna and just ordered the BNC connector to remove that thin wire and use my own thicker coax. Hopefully I can drop the noise floor lower. Keep us updated. We want to know. I actually ordered a third MLA 30. I'm going to have 3. I'm going to have one in the front, one in the back, and one for the expeditions and going to the park. And experimenting, of course. Larry Stevens, nice to have you on board. Mark Elford, nice to have you here, my friend. Sir Squally Wally, nice to have you on board from Illinois. Steve, nice to have you here from Australia. Scott Haley, nice to have you here, Scott, from Oklahoma. Jim is from Roscoe, Illinois. Marek Shodak, nice to have you on board from Toronto, Canada. Pretty cool. Radioactive from Prineville and Oregon. Rob says, love how Mr. Paul's face changes when you stop petting him. So cool. So right now, I don't know if you guys hear a faint alarm type thing. They're actually going to remove the snow on my street. François Gagnon, bonjour et bienvenue de Sherbrooke. Grand plaisir de t'avoir parmi nous. Nice to have you here from Sherbrooke. The image does look a bit more focused, sharper than usual. Interesting. Interesting. Bien sûr, Greg, il y a des gens qui parlent français ici. Hello there, Christoph. Nice to have you here from Poland. SQ7HJG. Nice to have you on board. Rifleman 336. Nice to have you on board, watching on his Roku with the big screen. Mr. Paul looks like a tiger. Fast Teddy, nice to have you here. In Thunder Bay, minus 41 Celsius with wind chill. That's cold. Rifleman 336 is N8UCN. And I'm just hearing that I have the impression somebody's going to be towed. Denny Shortwave says, so far the copper tube on the MLA30 seems to improve slightly on the medium wave band. However, on shortwave, it raises the noise floor a bit, especially above 10 megahertz. Huh, interesting. Linux DOS, did you see the huge indoor loop antenna that guy built from duct tubing? Yeah, I saw that. Man, that thing is huge. Max said strong. Nice to have you on board from Michigan. Zachary Antle, nice to have you here. I mean, pretty well, my friend. Pretty well. What else do we have? Agent Darkness. Nice to have you on board. As long as you can hear me. Nice to have you here, Agent Darkness. So it's 1080p. Huh, interesting. Okay. Because it used to, well, it's kind of interesting. It used to do it only on 720 through Google Chrome before. So it's nice to see that it's doing 1080. Cool. Matt says, thanks for the tip. Whoever told me to sign out and sign back in. I think this is a separate video from the original one. Yeah, it's a separate link. So that's really, really that tip. If you see that I'm not starting or there's a problem, just get back into the YouTube channel. Get out of it and get back in it, and you'll see that it's going to tell you, especially if you click videos, it's going to tell you the stream that is live. Brian Penny from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Nice to have you on board. Mickey Dalmage, nice to have you on board. From Alberta, Canada. Brian says, Paul says, Gilles' lap is more comfy than Gilles' sweater. Nice to have you on board. Oh, really, Greg? So you tried to reset, Kevin. Oh, man. That's a bummer. And a bad D808 and the MLE30 not arriving. Yeah, no, Dundon, I saw that there was a huge storm in Europe, in the UK, and that. I hope everything is it's not too bad. It had almost like hurricane force winds. What else do we have? Robert Shine, N3VXT. Bonjour, nice to have you here. What else do we have? James Farley, nice to have you here from New Jersey. Dan V from Northeast Ohio and 8WJZ. Pretty cool. Gaetan Belil, bonjour, nice to have you here. What else do we have? Selig, yeah, that would be a reversed, my evil twin with a reversed name, Selig, instead of Gilles. That'd be nice. I actually had a funny thing today. I bought cheese at the grocery store, and I looked quickly, and it said in French, it said Swiss cheese from Holland, but in English, it says Canadian Swiss cheese. So I'm like, what? In French, it says Swiss cheese from Holland. In English, it says Canadian Swiss cheese. I don't understand it. How do you know I'm the real Gilles? Well, if I get drunk and start ranting. No, I don't know how you could prove I'm the real Gilles. I mean, does the evil Gilles know as much about radio as the real one? I don't know. Greg, merci beaucoup. C'est bien apprécié. J'espère qu'il vous aide énormément. Et, bonne nuit. Vince Harley, nice to have you on board. Going to get my Texan R9012 tomorrow. Any tips for a beginner on the hobby? Just tune around. Just tune around. And have fun and listen at different times of day. Try the different bands at different times of day. It's really the best way. And if for some reason you have a hard time receiving anything, what I would suggest is that you go outside in the park or somewhere a little a little farther away from the homes, maybe you have too much noise. But the R9012, which is right there, by the way, is a very capable little radio. So the R9012 is here on the beautiful little stand. I'm going to show you guys that I got from a fan in Australia. So this is the so right now it had the R9012 on it. So I've got the official SWL channel radio stand, which is really, really nice. So look at that. 3D printed stand that was offered to me. Really, really nice little Australian flag in the back. So it's going to be my future videos are all going to use this stand for the radios. It's a really beautiful little stand, I can tell you that, and I'm very happy. Very happy. So the R9012 is a very capable little receiver. You just need to make sure you don't have too much noise. That probably is the biggest problem for any beginner that tries to listen to shortwave noise, which prevents you from really getting any signals, because it washes out the signals that are over there. Mark Stevens, nice to have you here from North Carolina. Rifleman 336, it's the real Gilles. I have a special cat stripe pattern recognition software. Oh man. Yeah, maybe a evil Paul would have like reversed colors or something. David, KJ4CMY, nice to have you here. Bro Weaver, nice to have you on board. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, Bro Weaver. That's for sure. $100 is cheaper than Office. Actually, I subscribe to Office 365 for my stuff, which for me is a more Office 365 cost me $99 a year, but it gives me a 1 terabyte of storage online. So just for the 1 terabyte of storage, it's actually a good deal already. So, and it gives me the full professional Microsoft Office that I use almost every day anyway. What else do we have? Mark Cope says it's Apparel Universe Gilles. Yeah. All the way from Beetlejuice, where it's soon to explode. So James Hebert, nice to have you here. YouTube shows options up to 1080. Looks great at that setting. Cool. Dave Freeman, nice to have you here from Monroe, New York. Shelly says this stream is kind of skippy for me. You're stuttering and jumping. Don't really have any people complaining. So maybe what you could maybe do is maybe lower the to 720p or something if it's on a higher. David Martin, YouTube stats, show my video at 1020p, 30 hertz. Okay, it's typical of my camera, which is I think 1080p at 30 frames per second. Mark Stevens, Windows 10, there's a way to tell it you're using a metered connection. Holds up most automatic updates until permissions given. Yeah, that's one of my my tricks on my tech channel. But here I'm using because I'm a tester of the Insider program, and I have a in Windows Insider channel, so I always play around with all of this. Artist Alleycrafter's Kitchen, nice to have you here from Massachusetts, counting down to the end of winter. Bobby Burgess says hello, Elizabeth. Rufus says they start to the hobby was AMDXing. So it's kind of cool. Michael, been in 40 years, never paid for a piece of software in my life. You can easily go and use computers and not have to pay for software in general. But I also am happy to pay for software that is really, really really useful and interesting to use. Um, Radioactive here in Brazil, 40 meters, FT8, PY2KK, last 15 minutes. Cool. Vince says, going to get my R912 tomorrow. Yes, so that's what I said. You just make sure that you just tune around a lot. Dave Freeman, yeah, my laptop is ready with Windows 10 on it. I just need to hook it up properly. I'm redoing the connection on my VHF antenna, and will be it should be up and running not too far from now with my ICOM 8500 on global tuners. I'll try to have it running in the weekend. I'll post a video and the link in the Facebook group also to guys that want to see it. Kevin just reset his 808D for the 5th time, and it works. Good luck on official Shortwave channel. Cool. Nice to see that it's working now. I don't know. Well, I'm gonna try a lot of things, because now with 3 MLA30s, I'll be able. One is gonna be for experimentation. I'm gonna try different size of loops, all sorts of things. I'm curious to see, can we bring that MLA30 to another level? That's one of the things I want to do. Try to bring the MLA30 to another level, actually. Any Shortwave says OBS has a slight learning curve. It's worth learning. I use it on my video captures for YouTube. Well, actually, I use it on video captures. I do use OBS for video captures. It has a major glitch with my Acer Nitro 5 laptop. It has a hard time with the switching between the 2 GPUs, because it's a gaming laptop. I got an Intel GPU for the main use, and I've got an NVIDIA gaming high-end GPU for gaming. And so when I actually use the OBS Studio, it makes my laptop always want to switch. And even if I tell it don't switch, it still switches with OBS. It's driving me a little crazy. So that's one of the things that crazy. Randy, Riverside, California. Nice to have you here. Mark Stevens, your YouTube does. Oops, I lost the. I was gonna go back here. 737. So your YouTube does look really good at 1080p. Cool. That's important. That's what I want. It seems smoother. You know what? I'm looking at my picture, and when I move my hand, it seems a lot smoother than it is with the Wirecast software. So you know what? Until I change software, maybe I'll just leave it at streaming with Google Chrome. It seems to be working really well, actually. I had left the Google Chrome because it wasn't performing well, but it seems to do a nice job. So, but I will be looking, because I want to have different inputs so you guys can see different things when I want to. So we're going to check it out. Kevin Wood, BBC was coming in well from Madagascar, a 19-meter band today. I was listening to yesterday I was listening to the BBC out of Ascension Islands on 15490, and it wasn't bad at all. It was better than usual, because they have a 30 minutes French language at 18 UT, and it was surprisingly good here. David, KJ4CMY, my shack is full of boxes after moving. Just found my IC 7600. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go nuts here, because in May, they're doing a major rework on every room, which means my office will need to be completely, everything I have here is going to have to be removed from here, which is, just thinking about it is driving me crazy. But at the same time, you know what? It's going to be nice, because it's stayed like this, roughly like this, for 20 years. So you know what? It's time for that room to change and to kind of be totally refreshed. And I think it's going to be a good thing. I'm trying to think about ways that I'm going to change stuff. One of the things that I want to do also is that when this room is going to be done and I put stuff back in it, I want to have to right now. You guys see the side with the desk that has the SDR and this side of the room. I'd like to have the at least three different setups, more than not just two, at least three different setups that I can move around. So, anyways, because I got, I still have ideas of streams and ideas of maybe shows on other channels that right now have nothing. And for that, well, I'd like to have I don't know, I'm trying to think of a way of making this room more versatile so that it's easy to kind of set up. I have like a side of it where there's temporary setups and backgrounds. I'm actually working on creating backgrounds that on really big cardboard. And what would be nice is I could like switch the background with different bricks or wood or whatever. Like the background could be easily switched in and out um of what it looks like. So I got some interesting ideas, and to kind of like push myself into the future of all of these live shows. And maybe I'm thinking of bringing back this fall. I will probably bring back a live show on the tech channel, but it will be extremely different from whatever I've done before. And that show will be more professional and more beautiful than what I had before. But so I'm gonna start by having that moment when I got to tear everything apart here before. That also means that in May I might not be live for a couple of weeks, because the time that everything's out, that they do the job, and then that I put back everything up, I might be not doing any live shows for a couple of weeks, and probably be doing videos from somewhere else for a couple of weeks. Um, Steve Rocky, nice to have you on board. Thank you very much. From Kentucky. Really nice to have everybody here. Caesar, nice to have you here. What do you think about the Radio Sony ICF Shortwave 100? Looks great. It looks great. But there's a flaw in it. Well, Michael Langer is talking about it. It's great, but it fails because of that little ribbon that breaks after a certain time. So, yeah, that's a problem. Rebel Foxy, nice to have you on board. And it says, I recommended the official Shortwave channel to a bunch of people, so you might see some new viewers. Cool. Cool. Chuck Yunkin, nice to have you here. Looks sharper. Cool. So maybe we'll have checking it. We'll check it out. Yeah, I know that Danny Shortwave. I know that Tobias supports multiple streams, including not just YouTube, but so YouTube, Facebook, and man, what's the other the gaming one that everybody uses? So I'll be checking that out for sure. Linux DOS last summer picked up a General Electric P2790 AM pocket transistor radio. I use it now to track down AM noise. It's AM radio because of its directional properties is really, really good. James Farley, I've never owned a Sony 2010, but I would love to. Honestly, if I'd see one at a decent price, I would probably buy one. From as long as I remember when I got my Kenwood R5000, that was the choice. When I got my Kenwood R5000, I had the choice of a Sony 2010, which was about Well, it was expensive. It was like 700 or 800 Canadian dollars back then. Or my Kenwood R5000, and my Kenwood R5000 brand new with the filters was about $1,500. So of course, for a while, I was like, maybe the Sony 2010 is what I should get. Until somebody in the classifieds was selling a Kenwood R5000 with the filter for 900. So now there was no contest. It was like, okay, Sony 2010, 800, Kenwood R5000 with filter, 900, Kenwood R5000. I wanted to have a desktop. So, okay, cool, Matt Timbali. Well, I'm going to check it out. You know what? Friday, I'll use the same setup, and we'll be at the other side. And so you guys can tell me if you can read the frequency and if it's better. Cool. So thanks for your input, guys, because you know what? You're the guys watching, and I don't necessarily see that much unless I go and watch my own recorded show. So when you guys give me feedback, you know, it's the only way I know most of the time exactly what to do and what it is and what I should change for sure. Nick, nice to have you here. Is that the Radio Shack manual tuning shortwave radio behind the R30? It's a Patrolman Shortwave 60 from Radio Shack. Yes. And I've got its other cousin there in my shelf, which is the CB 60. And so that is absolutely. Here is my first radio, the DX100 that I've used for. That was the first shortwave radio that I owned, that I understood what happened. Jean-Marc Litz, nice to have you here from Strasbourg, France. No damage locally during storm. Cool. What else do we have? Yes, Patrolman Shortwave 60. Rufus says love rants. I was more stressed out than you know. I was more stressed out about not having the show going. William Powell, RTL downloaded video, but no audio. Can you tell me what I did wrong? No signal. Oh, you need on an RTL, William Powell, have you checked the Zadig driver? Zadij. It's very important because when you plug that into a Windows machine, that RTL thinks it's a receiver, a TV receiver for Asia. And what happens is you need to use the Zadig driver to tell the computer that you need to replace the driver with that special driver. Then it should work. Maybe that's just the fact that you haven't replaced the automatic driver from Windows with the driver for the RTL-SDR. Gustavo Pinto, what's the difference between SDR Play and Kiwi SDR? Hardware's working, etc. Kiwi SDR is different hardware, and I believe the Kiwi SDR are based on a kind of a Raspberry Pi thing. I don't know if anybody could talk, maybe have more experience with the Kiwi SDR. There are quite a few differences. The SDR Play lets you connect to one frequency at a time and have one user at a time. The Kiwi SDRs are actually made that they can actually access from 4 or 8, depending on the version, 4 or 8 different connections at the same time. So it's a different SDR. Matthew Wells, how much it costs for the hobby? It depends. There's something in for all prices. You could have the R9012 for $20, and it's a starter hobby for $20. But it also is can be very expensive depending on, like every hobby. There's almost no limit to what you're spending. By the way, guys, I'm 15 minutes behind in the chat. I'll try to go a little faster so get to the bottom here. Joe Somdanio, nice to have you here from Brazil. And yeah, the stand is perfect. It's really cool. Very, very cool. Hey, William Helms, nice to have you on board. Happy birthday. 56. Time goes fast. If that radio comes to Australia, don't you have to listen to it upside down? Yeah, you have to. Oh, man. Mark Stevens, nice radio stand. There's a small niche market for those among us. Yep, absolutely. Zadig installed. Okay. What else do we have? You just go down. Matthew Wells, do I use iOS? I used to have an iPhone, but now I'm on Android. I don't want to have. I have had a MacBook Pro. I've had a iPhone, an iPad, and today I don't want to anything about Apple anymore. I'm happy with my Windows stuff. I got a couple of laptops on Linux also. I'm happy with my Android phone, and that does everything even better because I can plug in the RTL-SDR stuff like that on my Android phone and use the phone to listen to signals on the SDR, which you cannot on an Apple device. So I'm not going back, that's for sure. Kevin is happy. His 808 has come back from the dead. Amazing signals on the real Sangean antenna. Yeah, it probably was kind of zapped, or the processor needed to really, really be reset somehow before it came back. Hope that it continues like that. Linux DOS Panasonic RFB45. I've seen it. I've heard a lot of people that that used one. I don't know, 65 for me. An RFB 45 at $65 seems a little steep on price, you know. Rebel Foxy, Texan is cloning old Grundig radios like the satellite. Well, they're not cloning. They're actually a lot of the Grundig radios, the modern Grundig radios. It's not clones. It's Texan that actually makes them. They're just putting the Grundig name on it. It's the other way around. What else do we have? Zachary Antle. Just trying to find where I was. What would you have done in the past life without all your tech toys? What would I have done in the past? I don't know. I would have done something else. I mean, I was fortunate enough to have somebody that actually I had a lot of stuff around me. But I'm a guy that's adapts itself to its surrounding. If I never had a computer and a radio, maybe I don't know. I'd be doing something else. I don't know what. Mark Stevens says, I'm new to the X and monitoring the bands. Notice that most of it in my part of the world doesn't get interesting until 9:30 p.m. and on until sunrise. Using long wire external via. Yeah, there are times of day that are more that are really better. Honestly. That's for sure. Joseph, definitely better quality video. Cool. We're gonna use that on Friday also. I'm curious to see if you guys with this video quality can read the screen. That'll be an interesting thing for sure. Rebel Fox, has anyone used a Texan S2000 multi-band receiver? A lot of people have one. I'm sure you're going to see other people in the room. Dave, that's great. Montreal, my favorite place to listen to the radio. I went on a family trip to Sydney, Nova Scotia back in 70 when I was 12. Cool. So everybody is agreeing that the video is better. Cool. How do you use global tuners? You have a piece of software to download to link your radio to global tuners. And I have my ICOM controlled through an USB to serial adapter for all of this to work. Gate Tumberlin, I have two questions for you. Is it contraindicated to leave an antenna plugged in all the time? And how to explain that it seems that the same frequency is found in several places at the same time? So I never unplug my antennas. Okay, I will be. I'm one. I'm one. Probably one of the guys that does what nobody should do, which is leave them plugged in all the time, including in the summertime with thunderstorms. And I've never had problems, but it doesn't mean I cannot have problems. Of course, I can have problems. There's a few things that technically could make or have create problems with your radios. It's something we don't think about much, but when it's snowing, when it's very windy, especially if it's very dry outside, there's static electricity buildup on the antenna can be and blow the front end of a radio. It's surprising. Of course, you don't even need in the summertime to have a direct hit from a lightning strike to have your radio zapped. If it's close enough, just the electromagnetic pulse that it creates is enough to zap the radio's front end. So, technically, I think the best way to use radio would be to probably unplug the antenna, the outdoor antennas, when the radio is not being used. It's the best protection, probably. Some have lightning arresters, which are able to, when the current goes higher than a certain level on the antenna, it actually does a little spark to ground to remove the dangerous voltage that could blow the radio's the radio's front end. But technically we should, in the summertime, especially if you're a long time without using your radios, it would probably be safer and better to unplug the antennas, especially with the thunderstorms that we get and stuff like that. As for on shortwave, you can use the same frequency on separate areas, target areas at the same time without interfering, because the different target areas with day night patterns and all of that means that when you broadcast on, say you broadcast on 7500 in Asia, well, if you broadcast on 7500 in North America, if the time used means that technically 7500 doesn't propagate up to here, you can have 2-3 transmitters at the same time on the same frequency in different parts of the world. They won't interfere with each other. That said, sometimes it does still happen that they interfere with each other. And if the reason why they do this is simply that there's a limited number of frequencies, and in certain areas there will be the same frequency used in different areas at the same time. Yes, Mark Stevens, I will take care of that of those radios. I can tell you that. Dave Freeman says, remember this plane was delayed 3 hours at Montreal airport. Wow. When you were using a portable radio. Cool. Cool. What else? Brent, can we see your weather station again? I'm thinking of getting one. Can you give me a few minutes, Brent? If I don't show you the weather station, remind me again. Okay, I'm just gonna try to go and reach the end of the chat faster. And when I'm at the end of the chat, if I don't remember, just ask me again for the weather station so I can show you. Rob says, "Oh, so glad you're considering doing a new live tech show." Yeah, but this time will be different. Will be like I said, more professional. Just already, you guys, anybody that's followed this live stream since the beginning, you guys probably noticed that my lighting is so much better. Everything is so much better than it was at the beginning, because as time went and as I evolved doing the live shows, what happened is I, of course, invested in getting more lighting systems, and like I said, I want to have these big, huge cardboard that will have different backgrounds. So I just move in a cardboard brick background and different lightings and different colored lightings and stuff. And depending on the show that I do, and if I do 2 or 3 different shows, what could be fun is that each show you want to have a different look and a different feel. Well, by doing that, I would be able to have simply switch the backgrounds, the colors, and the stuff. Hey, new studio, an easy way to kind of create a new studio, but always being at the same place. So there's things like that I want to do. So that for that, of course, it will require that huge work of removing everything in this room. Still, just thinking about it, oh man, this is gonna be tough. But it's all for the best. Matthew Wells, can you run a radio on iOS operating system? Well, you can't technically because okay. It depends what you mean by a radio. By the way, Skip Davis, nice to have you here. And yes, Twitch. That's what I was forgetting, Rob. You can tune online SDRs through the browser and an iOS device, like on SDR.hu or all the Kiwi SDRs online. The problem with iOS is that it's a closed system. So because Apple doesn't want and is scared of people hacking and whatever, and getting the most control over the devices, what happens is they close down the system. So you can't install the drivers needed for an SDR, for example, and run it from the tablet, an iPad, or an iPhone. That's why I'm happy with Android, because on Android I'm capable of doing it, and that's what I want. I want to have the capability of running an SDR on the Android device. So that's really why I love Android rather than an iPhone or an iPad on iOS. RadioNet R, nice to have you here. In your opinion, what's the rarest shortwave station to catch over the air right now? It would be small stations like I don't know, which ones are still on the air. There's a few. There's one from Australia on 5045. That's a tough one. There's quite a few of them. There's a few of them in the there's Armenia that's on shortwave. That is tough to really tough to get. There's quite a few low powered. When you use an SDR radio net in South America, you notice that South America is full of very, very low powered shortwave stations that are impossible here because they're just like 50 watts or not even 100 watts, and they just don't propagate up to here. Radio.har has the DX60. Which covers more than shortwave spectrum, and I love that radio for old analog that taught me how to use shortwave. Yeah, the because this one, the shortwave 60 has AM, FM, shortwave from 6 to 18 megahertz, and VHF low, VHF high, and UHF. The CB60 is the same radio, but instead of putting the shortwave band, they put the 40 channels of CB in it. James Farley says, I use an R5000 with all the filters and VHF. Cool. Tony Turtle, nice to have you here. Brett Wayne, nice to have you here. Spend $330 on filters. You know, that's one thing that I can't stand. Can't stand. And you know what? You purchase a radio that costs you like, $1,000, $2,000, and they ask you for money for better filters. I'm sorry, but these should really, really be in the radio already at the price we pay. Take care of Delva 65. Michael Langer lost 3 DX440s over static. That's also something that you got to be careful inside in the wintertime, by the way, guys, because static electricity builds up in your home. So right now here, my humidity is 29%. I touch everything metal and I get a shock. I pet Paul the cat and I touch my microphone and I get a shock. So you can easily zap a portable radio if you're not careful if it's very, very dry. Because static electricity buildup, you can zap, you'll touch the antenna, it's going to zap, and it's going to break the front end transistors. Keegan, nice to have you here, Northwest Arkansas. Jane Dagger, nice to have you on board. Noodles, KC2JLI. Saw an Intra 99 blow middle out from static electricity. Looked like a flower when I took down. It's crazy how static electricity can really, really can blow a device for sure. Skip Davis is in lightning storm here in Oklahoma. I unplug them and put them in the closet. Keegan says he's using his dad's ICOM IC 7300 transceiver, W9JEF. Michael Langer, lightning hit my tower 3 feet from me, heard a click, the huge boom, all survivors. Pretty crazy that what could happen. But in a storm, the best, and even when you're not at home for a little while, I think the best practice would be to definitely unplug. Paul, nice to have you here. Gaitan Belil, thank you for the answer. Cool. I'm here for that. If you have questions. Matt says, I heard from a guy on the local net that lightning struck a power line directly and sent electricity into several homes. Is included and fried his entire station. I unplug stuff from the wall now, not just the antennas when lightning is in my area. And you know what? One of the things, Matt, that and everybody, do not think that those power bars that are rated at protecting your equipment protect you. And the story I'm going to tell you is from a ham radio operator that I talked to in the 90s. So he lives in a small town in south of, well, actually not far from Sherbrooke, Quebec. And one day we had a set of, I'm going to get another beer and talk about that story. And I will actually make you guys unplug your radios from now on because of what I'm going to tell you. You're going to see. So beer number two. Like same beer. It's a black currant Belgian style ale. It's actually very good, very tasty. So, guy lives in a remote area, and there's not a lot of homes that are very close together. Lightning hit a transformer at the end of his road. That transformer was powering about 10 houses in his area. And when the lightning hit, everything in his shack blew up. Even the things that were turned off. For example, every light bulb in his house, when the lights were turned off, blew up. Why? Because the current was so intense that the space between the switch when you actually are off was not big enough to prevent the lightning or the spark to actually go from one connector to the other. Everything blew up. And one of the things that guy actually is a electronics engineer. And that guy was explaining to me that all those power bars, whatever price you pay, even the expensive ones, have zero protection from lightning and stuff like that. Okay? We tend to buy them and say, "Oh, well, this is going to protect my equipment," and so on. And he was actually telling me that he had some expensive bars that were there and meant to protect in case of damage. Everything blew up on every socket. Even the bars themselves were burned up. He threw out everything almost. And he was just saying, you know what? When you're not there for a long time, or if in the summertime you're not there for a long time, don't just unplug your antennas. Unplug from the wall socket the power bars. Don't just turn off that switch to turn the power off. Because once again, I don't know if you guys hear the beep beep, but they're now actually removing the snow. So don't just, turn off the switch from the power bar. Because if there's a lightning strike, that the switch, the gap between the connectors on the switch aren't, far enough. They're not going to prevent a spark from happening. So it's not just a question of unplug the antenna, unplug the radio from the computers and everything from the wall socket. So it's crazy. What else do we have? Matt says got lightning arresters on external antennas, but lightning arresters work for small charges, but it doesn't protect if the lightning strike is really, really, really close. Keegan has 5,000 WWV. Steve Rocky uses an ICOM R75, an SDR player SP2 Pro, and a com radio CR1 on a homemade loop antenna. My brother and I make your show. Has been very helpful. Say hi to Paul the cat. Cool, Steve, from Louisville, Kentucky. Nice to have you here. Pretty cool. Cool. Matt, never noticed your YouTube hoodie had your channel name on it. Is that new? I've had it for a couple of months now. I went to a YouTube event a couple of months ago, and they actually gave me this hoodie, which was very nice. They actually asked me, we're gonna give you a hoodie. It's gonna have a channel name on it. Can you tell us the name of your channel? So of course I have several channels, but the one that I wanted this hoodie to have on is official Shortwave channel. I wanted to have the official SWL channel on it because I do live shows. If on the tech channel I don't do live shows right now, so it would not be the same. So I thought, well, put the official SWL channel on it. So it could be that, Matt. Sharper picture. Oh, man. What do we have? Jane Dagger has expensive Jack Daniels. Don't take too much of that. Ja, good Wednesday. Nice to have you here, Ja. Where are you located? What else do we have? Poison Flower. Nice to have you here from Western Australia. Pretty cool to have you here. Pretty cool. There's Ali Crafter's Kitchen. Sony's ICF 2010 is notoriously prone to static electricity. Luckily, I have a newer model, not prone. Yeah, I remember that the front-end transistors were blowing up quite easily on the ICF 2010, the first production run, for sure. Matt says the guy who owns HF Underground website posted a video he made where a antenna was hooked up to a light bulb and the bulb was lighting when lightning struck somewhere. Good enough reason to disconnect. Absolutely. If you guys have never noticed or tried this, I have. So we have, not very far from here, there's very big power lines, 750,000 volts power lines that are crossing the road. And I say about, not close to my house, but about 15, 20 minutes from here, but more than that, half an hour walk from here. Okay. And one experiment that I showed somebody one night is that if you go under the 750,000 volt power lines, you bring a neon tube. You hold the neon tube on one end and you stick it in the air. And in the darkness, because in the daytime you don't notice it, but in darkness, you will see that the neon tube actually glows. There's enough magnetic field around the power lines that it actually makes the neon tube glow, which makes you think about it. I'll tell you that. Mohinder Kana, nice to have you here. Says ICF 2010 field effect transistor, very easy to replace. Don't bother getting the 2SK152, just use the J310. So he's got a fix here. Yes, slicker is quicker. That's for sure, Jane Dagger. Skip Davis heard it blowing things out from a hit half a block away in a neighborhood. That's crazy how fast it goes. Steve, I've seen it show power outlets melted in the wall. Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. Crazy. Even more. He says, like Skip Davis says, move away from windows and outlets and don't take your shower in a thunderstorm. Same thing. You might be surprised. You could be zapped in the shower. Lightning strike really close to the your home. Electricity will go through the pipes, metal pipes. Bobby Burgess says, me thinks my electric company has a great lightning protection system. Should lightning hit somewhere in the network, we just get a blackout for just about 10 seconds. No, it's not, because electric companies do have lightning protection, all of them. But it's a question. It's not a question of one being better than the other. It's more of a question of having that hit close enough for you to actually have something happen. I mean, here I've never seen anything happen, and I mean, every summer we have at least one thunderstorm where the lightning strikes are really, really close. But it's a question of having that. I every summer when there's a thunderstorms, some of you might have seen some pictures or videos that I posted where I shoot in the front of the house. And I have a nice big transformer and the electric pole just across the street from here. And every summer when I see thunderstorms, I look at that and I'm thinking, man, someday, maybe. You never know. Pretty crazy. What else do we have? What else do we have? David KJ4CMY had a friend whose house was struck by lightning. It not only fried a radio that was plugged in, but also a radio several feet away that was not connected to anything. Could be the electromagnetic field. It was really close. Remember one thing. It's not connected, but the radio, an AM/FM radio, has a ferrite that has hundreds and hundreds of turn of wire. A really close lightning bolt. That ferrite might, by inductance, create enough energy to maybe blow the circuit. Who knows? Mark Cope is hearing Radio New Zealand International 13840. Cool. Hey, Ja in Illinois. Cool. Nice to have you here. Bobby Burgess. Besides that, I had a router and 2 cable boxes fried when power came back on. Yep. That's also something we don't think about, but the cable or the phone lines can also be bring in some current. Matthew Campo, nice to have you here. I was talking to a local antenna installation company, and they recommended that I do not ground my tower, as it will turn it into a lightning rod. Do you guys ground your towers directly or not? That's an interesting question. Probably what you could do is more of the power companies. What they do, they have the main towers, metal towers, but they have they'll put a lightning arrestor on the towers, meaning that if it hits, instead of hitting the tower, it hits a metal pole, and that current is directed with really huge cables to the ground directly. So instead of hitting the tower itself, it's kind of interesting because there's kind of ways to kind of divert any hit. Instead of hitting your antenna, would hit somewhere else close. So Steve Retchard, nice to have you on board from the rainy and windy San Juan Islands in the Pacific Northwest. Nice to have you here. Pretty cool. Linux DOS. I have a USA atomic clock, Skycan. The time zone is Eastern. It works in Atlantic time, New Brunswick. The time is set by station WWVB at 2 a.m., 60 kilohertz. My weather station actually does have the atomic clock from WWVB. And it synchronizes, like right now. I don't see if the antennas, the little icon for antennas there. Every 3 or 4 days, it synchronizes, but not every day. It's so noisy here that it probably doesn't get the signal all the time, but it seems to work from time to time. So, what else do we have? Nope, no DMR. I don't have anything for DMR. Moyercana says, I recall FEMA giving lightning protectors to radio stations, and they have more than one of the radio stations AM are needed during disaster. Yeah. They have lightning protectors that diverts that bolt of lightning away from the antennas themselves. Skip Davis says lightning strikes are like incoming missiles in Oklahoma. Boom, 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 constant. Yeah, you guys are in a particular place for that. What else do we have? What else do we have? I'm almost at the end of the list. This is good. Matt says, I'm going to work on improving my station grounding come springtime. I think I've got a decent setup, but if you can drive a lot of rods and go all around your house, really helps for protection. John Root, nice to have you here. Everyone, are there any shortwave radio clubs? Yes, absolutely there are. And actually one you can be a member is the Canadian International DX Club. And there's a sample bulletin every month that you can actually ask for a sample copy of the bulletin every month at CIDX Club at yahoo.com. There's others, of course, depending on your hobby. So CIDX Club at yahoo.com. You can ask for a sample copy of the messenger bulletin. And if you like, well, you can subscribe and become a member of the Canadian International DS Club. There are other clubs. There's a few clubs still left in the US and so on. But there's not that many clubs like there were, in the 80s or 70s. What else do we have? Let's check it out here. Can you get 5850 from Matt? For here, 5850 WRMI. Yep. It's not very strong tonight, but it's there. Let me just move this away here and go back to 5850. Oops. Let me just check. Okay, 5850. It's S7, S8, S9 right now on 5850 here. It's probably skipping over you, Bobby. VU2KOC. Getting greetings for World Radio Day. Yeah, you guys that are already tomorrow, it's World Radio Day tomorrow. World Radio Day tomorrow. So I have one request to you guys. And it's to take the time tomorrow to write at least one station that you really, really like and let them know that you are listening in. So I think that would be a great, great thing to do tomorrow. So tomorrow is World Radio Day. And there's, of course, the handbands will have, probably there's some events on the handbands. I know Radio Romania usually has some special programming. So, I think it's going to be a nice day to enjoy radio, think about radio, and don't forget, once again, I think one of the things anybody, and I will do it, I promise I will do it, I will write to at least one, but I'll try to actually write into a couple of stations tomorrow and let them know that I actually am listening to their broadcast on shortwave. One of the things that I always say is that the stations can't see you. And often, Voice of the Report of the Week, I was listening last week, I think, and he was asking for reports because he says, without your reports, I don't know you're listening. I don't know you're there. And that is something that, they don't know you're listening if you're not writing in. So tomorrow, World Radio Day, take the time to write. If you don't have a lot of time, come on, it takes 15, 20 minutes. Take the time, take that 15 minutes tomorrow and write to your favorite station and let that station know you're listening. Let that station know that, you're happy that they are on shortwave. And you know what? Hey, why not ask for a QSL card at the same time? So, I'll be doing it. I'll be doing it tomorrow. So, and I'll actually do a video talking about it. Mark Stevens not getting 5850. Joseph entering the skip zone here on the West Coast with Nightfall. David Martin says, my Casio G-Shock Multiman 6 solar watch syncs time WWV every night. Helps to keep it near a window, a stable signal. Yeah, I have a hard time. I have a very hard time with anything that synchronizes with WWVB on 60 kilohertz here because of the noise. I had, this is the third device that I have that actually synchronizes its clock with that signal. The first was a very small clock that I won at a contest, and it was just a clock, a regular, alarm clock, powered on batteries, and it was cool because it was clear plastic. You could see the circuit inside, and I could see the ferrite, a big ferrite, plugged into the circuit for the reception of 60 kilohertz. When I got that, that's in the late 1990s. When I had that in the late 90s, it actually synced almost every night when I was placing it close to a window. And as the noise increased over time, what happened is it synced less and less often until at one point it wouldn't sync at all. Then I got a weather station that had a LCD, regular black and white or grayish LCD panel that would also synchronize with WWVB. It did a few times, but almost never. So when I got this new weather station that I really like, and I knew that it could synchronize with WWVB, I thought, well, is it gonna really be synchronizing? Because I have a hard time here with anything that synchronizes on that signal. And I actually left it there in a few positions. It was different areas since I have it. So I purchased that clock, that weather station just before Christmas, and actually it's on sale again on Canadian Tires. They sold it for like $170. I had it for $69, and I was looking today because somebody, Ray Kelly in Nova Scotia, was asking me where I got it. And Brent, by the way, if you want one, they are on sale at Canadian Tires once again at $69.99. So instead of $170. So it's not worth $170. Honestly, I don't pay $170 for that. But at $69, it's totally worth it. It's a very nice atomic clock and weather station. And being in Brockville, Ontario, you're closer to WWVB, might synchronize better. So the first month that I got it, it would not synchronize. And then I found its new spot in my desk, just above the ICOM. And I noticed that position there, it actually does sync the clock once or twice a week, which is okay. I mean, it doesn't have to sync every day. At least if it could sync once or twice a week, you know that your clock is fairly accurate. So I'm happy because that means it's fairly accurate. Right now, it's not. I'm not sure. I don't see it very well from here. But when it is, it's like, At least it does it once or twice a week. Pretty cool. Brett Wayne 5850 S4 S5 in Salamanca, New York, KC2 NXP. And let's check it out here. Matt wants to write Radio Exterior de España. That's a good idea. Since I haven't written to them since they came back with their English and French language program. Let them know I'm listening in. And they have a new QSL card also. So that could be cool to have a brand new 2020 QSL card from Radio Exterior de España. Michael Langer says, watching Gilles and 5850 is synergy. Matt says, I write to Voice of Reported Weeks to me regularly, but I have to admit that I haven't been tuning in to him regularly for a couple of months. I always bump to his show and like, just by because I'm tuning, because I have no idea the days and times most of the time. And so the last couple of times, I think it was Bobby Burgess that I saw in the Facebook group, or somebody in the Facebook group at least, saying, oh, look at that, Voice of the Report of the Week is on now. And it reminds me to tune in because I need to have a schedule. And anyways, I look at the schedules of these stations. When the station is not on every day, it gets a little, you got to remind yourself of, oh, that's on Wednesdays or Thursdays or Fridays, or it's not as easy to remember. But I've heard Voice of the Report of the Week in the last almost every week for the past 2 or 3 weeks now. VU2 KOC says in India, it's local time 7:15 a.m. And of course, they are celebrating Radio Day, World Radio Day. So happy World Radio Day, my friend in India. It's nice to have you here. Pretty cool. Matt says CHU should add long wave signal for synchronizing atomic clocks and watches. You know what is my thinking, Matt? Clocks should have actually had a circuit designed to tune WWV or CHU shortwave signals by, checking out a couple of frequencies like, 10 or 15 megahertz for WWV. Why? Because the long wave signal from, especially here, the long wave signal from WWVB is getting a lot, very weak. So it's getting hard, and with the higher noise we have today, it's getting hard for these devices to actually synchronize. But there's always a moment during the day that one of the WWV frequencies or CHU frequencies actually comes in really well. There should have been something from that, Spectrum Monitor, yeah, it's a good, pretty good magazine, Michael Langer. C. Johnson, not saying I would be against atomic clock signals, but with all this cell technology, do you even need to have a atomic clock anymore? You know what, C. Johnson? The need for that is not the same. As long as all of it works. Of course, my phone and my computer are always synchronized through the web with clocks, and that's for sure. That's for sure. But you know what? Yes, we do still need that because of areas where you would need, well, okay, once again, you can use GPS. You can synchronize a clock with GPS signal. That's another way. But GPS signal can easily be, have problems and so on. I think we still need, yes. I mean, it's a cheap way. A GPS clock is much more expensive than any clock that would be synchronizing with WWVB. So I think, yeah, I think yes, there's still need in if you're not in an area where internet works well or stuff like that. Honestly, Jane Dagger loves the pinkish circular antenna behind me. Does it work well? Yeah, the AN200. It actually does work surprisingly well for medium wave DXing. It's a passive antenna, so this doesn't have batteries or anything. And you have a tuning button, and it's actually very beautiful. I find this to be one almost a art. It's almost some art, antenna art. It's very very nice the way that they designed this, and it works by inductance. So you just bring it close to your radio and tune around, and it's surprisingly good. I use it. I use it regularly in the nighttime when I want to DX medium wave with a portable. And actually, I was thinking today that I should try this week to have time to make videos to compare the AN48X active loop on medium wave and the AN200 passive loop on the AM bands. So you know what, Brent? Look at the go to the Canadian Tire. Either go to the Canadian Tire itself if you have one close to you, if they have it, or go online to Canadian Tire and look for the weather station with wind speed. They call it the forecast weather station with wind speed indicator or something like that. And you'll see that it's normally $174.99, and it's on sale at $69.99. So check it out. Matt says lots of institutions sync their clocks via WWVB. It's more reliable than other internet or more accurate. Yeah, because if there's no internet, WWVB is going to work. That for one thing. Anything that's cell or internet, if there's an outage for some reason, WWVB doesn't have an outage. GPS will work, but GPS is more expensive. And you never know. GPS could be, could have problems of all sorts. So. Brady, KJ7GFT, nice to have you here. Have you looked into the ICOM IC705 at all? I'm very interested in getting my hand on it. I looked at the video presentation. It looks interesting. If they do it right. It could be very interesting. Absolutely. Mark Cope, listening to Toronto traffic reports in Dallas on News Talk 1010. CFRX 6070. Cool. Matt says, for me, I get voice of the report of the week best on Thursday evenings. Fridays UT 200. Really don't find his other broadcasts. But you're right. He's often changing or canceling broadcasts. I think the one that I get is UT Saturdays or UT Sundays. I don't even know. You know what? I heard him 3 weeks in a row, and I can't even tell you the schedule, what time I was listening to. I just stumble either by accident or somebody in the Facebook group says, "Oh, Voice of the Report of the Week is there." Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm gonna listen in. Thursday evenings, I'm not home. I have some business stuff with YouTube with my nephew, which means I'm not home all evening. So well, the the Michelangelo, the problem, is with WWV, WWVB, and all of that. Honestly, okay, scientific fields will know that exists because it's useful to have precise time. I had somebody here in the chat a couple of months back saying, "Well, I'm not sure it's useful to have these time stations anymore in shortwave." And I had crossed my mind. Is it really useful today? But you know what? I've had a few people, including Cosmic Lettuce, that does astronomy, and says, you know what? Out in the field, it's super important to have WWV and these stations to make sure that our clocks are as accurate as possible. And so it's very useful, still very useful. But the problem is, apart from like the scientific community, apart from people like us that are in the radio sphere that they know they exist, the regular population, the average Joe that doesn't do radio, isn't a science guy or girl. You know what? They're just not, they just don't know what these things are. And they're like, yeah, well, what's that? Let's remove the funding. We don't need that. And of course, there's always that person somewhere who's going to say, well, all of that can be done over the internet now. Why are we paying for that? Dr. Sisup, you're getting WWV 25 megahertz? Must be some Spartak E. It's darkness now. John Root says he's a general class ham, licensed since 2002, and KJ6NXX. Nice to have you here. Brett Wayne, take your Texan AM to 200 loop, tune it to WWV, and put it next to the weather station. Yeah, it doesn't go down to long wave. It would need to be tuned down to the long wave. A what, Michelangelo? It's not very expensive, Jane Dagger, and you put it next to a portable radio, and it's pretty crazy. Moyeder Kana 2405 did about 1 hertz. What is it? You got to be careful because it could be a lot of stuff. It could be an authentic signal, but it could be some local device creating interference on your side. Matt says going to be checking into the local ham radio learning net momentarily, but should still be able to keep it here. Cool. Dr. Sisab, 93.95 jammed again. Let's see, 93.95. Pretty good. Radio Argentina al exterior, 93.95. If you guys want to listen to Argentina, 9395 kilohertz via WRMI. Not bad a signal right now. And they're actually RAEargentina.com, so RAE. They're asking for reception reports actually right now. And if you send a report by email, they want to have a clip of the audio of the station of listening to check it out. So 93.95 kilohertz WRMI with RAE Argentina right now. You know what, Gaetan Belil? I've learned one thing with the because I did read the comments Gita. But you know what? Almost every weather station that you will check on, everybody has bad comments because they don't totally understand how it works. And they don't, because I've seen the comments. I've seen people say, well, I've had 5 of them and blah, blah, blah. It's almost universal from every weather station that there's bad comments, Gita. I'm happy with mine. It's been up and outside now for since just before Christmas, and it's working great. But almost every weather station that I've purchased over time, they all have bad comments because people don't totally understand how they work and how to install them. And you got to install them outside, so there's always somebody somewhere that doesn't install it correctly, and so on. Mine works fine, so I don't know. John Root is using his ICOM 7610 for shortwave DX listening. Cool. A very strong solar flare, a very strong my M class. You know what, Matt? The GPS suffers from one major problem with solar activity. Every time there's a major solar flare, and I mean, M class, maybe more X class than M class, but when there is a very strong solar flare and strong geomagnetic disturbances around the Earth, the GPS signal actually can be modified. It can be your GPS might be actually off by several hundred kilometers. We have seen that several times, by the way, where your GPS in a huge solar flare suddenly shows you are 200 kilometers off. And that also means that the clock synchronization, everything gets screwed. So GPS signals can be temporarily inaccurate in times of solar flare and solar activity, big solar activity. Of the dawn, nice to have you here. Yeah, depending on where the stuff from China comes, Dr. Sisop, it's possible. Yep, Matt, absolutely. But it's better since Christmas. We've had enough new flares of the solar cycle 25 that I think the solar minimum might actually be behind us now, and that we're in that slow phase of where we're going to start seeing a little more activity. What else do we have? VT Radio, nice to have you on board. Paul in Essex Junction, Vermont, listening to CKDO AM 1580 in Oshawa, Ontario, on his World War II Signal Corps BC 348Q receiver. For speaker, he's running the audio into his Zenith Trans Symphony Royal 2000. Cool. Sounds like a nice setup. Always something special and unique in listening to all of that in old receivers. Right? There's something special. David Martin says a business campus near me uses Primex to send RF time syncs across all their clocks. Strong signals constantly on 72.15 megahertz in a 1 mile radius. Found out what it was from Signal ID Wiki. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Take care, Jane Dagger. Stay safe. See you next time. Don't you hate that, Matt, when we mess up the time and it's like, oh no, it's not now, it's later. The other day I was so mad the other day. I was tuning around the bands and not hearing any of the signals, and I noticed that I was looking at EIBI space 1930 UT signals, and we were 1830 UT, and I was like, God dang it, really? I was 1 hour off. So, pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Yeah, 5850. I saw this is a music show with the start when he actually creates a pattern in the audio of the SDR. Yeah, David Martin, WWVB coverage map. Montreal is really on the edge. It's we are really, really close to being out of range. Pretty crazy. Anything else? Mark Cope says Alan Wiener said yesterday Superstation 9330 back on the air by this weekend. We're going to take a look at that for sure. So, I'm just looking here what's happening. Nathan Bretrovsky, nice to have you on board. Any good propagation apps for Android? I have one, I think, installed here. I'm trying to find it. So, don't. One thing for sure is not to go too crazy on the propagation apps. So there's a thing called MUF Predictor by SV1. I've got that one installed. Now there's Ham Solar. What's that? So there's Ham Solar HAP chart. So let me just check that one. Downloading it now. And there's MUF Predictor. So that one is point-to-point MyPad. So you can choose 2 locations with MUF Predictor, and it's going to tell you what are the best frequencies to use for that option. You can have your favorite paths. There's DRX areas. And use location, default location. It's kind of a nice little app, MUF Predictor. The other one that I just downloaded, I've never seen before, a Ham Solar HAP chart. So this is what it's called, Solar AP chart. And it looks like it gives you the, okay. Oh, that's interesting. So it gives you that chart of propagation with frequencies, all the bands that are open or not, or good or no good. And when you click on it, it brings you to hamqsl.com with all the solar conditions. I don't know. Okay. Nearest reference point. I don't know. I'll have to take a look at that and see here about that. There's quite a few from what I see here. But, I don't take too much importance than on propagation conditions from apps and websites, honestly. Dr. Sisop got dead carry on 3300 again, in and out. C. Johnson, it's smaller than a hula hoop. A hula hoop is actually bigger than the MLA 30, honestly. The W6 LVP loop is more like a hula hoop or a bigger hula hoop than the MLA30. MLA30 is smaller, and it's a very thin metal wire. So Linux DOS, I think coupling is so cool, great for rigs with no antenna terminals. I'm thinking about coiling up 6 or so feet of wire into a small loop and attaching it to my 102-foot dipole. It's the same thing with the AN48X loop, the active loop from Texan, which is nice because it comes with one of the adapters where you can actually couple for medium wave if your radio doesn't have any antenna connection. Ron Hicks, nice to have you on board. KM4LDI. Got a QSL card from WBCQ Monticello, Maine. Cool. That is cool. Yeah, some vehicles, some cars and trucks are actually a little noisy on the radio side. Unfortunately. Ron Hicks is in Memphis, Tennessee, and you listen to them on the WebSDR. Cool. Prasad says, my XH data battery dead. Forgot to charge it last night. Can't use it when charging. Oh, that's sad. That's why I have several now. So that if I forget, I'll have other batteries to replace it. And they're really, really cheap to purchase. So it's really, really nice for that. Before I go to the questions, I'm just going to give a little something here. PayPal.me/shortwave. PayPal.me/shortwave. Or PayPal for donations. So Yahoo email for donations for PayPal. You can also become a patron. Patreon.com/radio and computers. And do a little something, give a little something every month. It's very, very good. It's very nice to have these donations because they help me pay for the equipment. I was talking earlier, I want to have these cardboard with kind of changes for the studios and stuff. Well, I do these live shows and it costs money to actually, for the lighting systems and the ideas that I have. Like I always say, I purchased last year a brand new computer, $1,800. And the only reason I needed a new computer is simply for the live shows. Because honestly, my old laptop was still doing a great job for everything else. But it was at the limits of its capabilities on the live shows. And I had to, so these are things that, I got to invest money from time to time and stuff. Also, I got new radios, antennas, and, how many of you bought the MLA30? Enjoy it and, save tons of money because maybe you were thinking of a Walbrook of a W6 LVP loop and then save tons of money because you bought the MLA30 thanks to the recommendations here, or bought a great radio thanks to the recommendations. But the thing is, for me to have a recommendation, well, I got to have the device. Costs money, buying radios, buying antennas and stuff. So, just think about it. If you enjoy this show, if you enjoy the fact that I'm here, and look at how hard I actually worked to be on the stream tonight, because it didn't work on the other side, on the other way. I actually, did it through here in a different fashion, a different way. And, I'm happy to be here twice a week and, do these long shows, So if you really like what I do, enjoy my, what I do, think about it. Think about it. Okay, what else do we have? Matt says, my old minivan, which was total last fall, could not be used to listen to weekday AM stations. Engine was too noisy. So, Michael Langer loves Canada for some reason. Hey, everybody loves Canada. Actor Sysub getting the new ICOM 705 soon when released. Nice radio, but don't know if you can mod it. Man says Canada is cool. Wish I lived close enough to make day trips. I had a joke, and by the way, all the other guys in Canada, please don't take it bad. There's a they were talking about how Madonna said that Canada is boring. And I made a joke, said, well, that's because she hasn't really come out in Montreal and have fun. Oh, man. So, oh, yeah, that's something that's important to know, Prasad. Absolutely, you're right. And thanks for mentioning it. So, the 18-16-50 batteries have two types, one with the button top on it and the ones that don't have it. So now you have the ones, you know what we should do, Prasad? You can use them. Take you have aluminum foil at home. Do a little aluminum foil button and squeeze it in with the battery. It's going to work. Try that. That's what I would do. But absolutely, you got to be careful because let me check it one here. The batteries, the 18650, some of them are flat on both sides. So you see here, this one has a button top. It's like a regular, a little bit like a big AA battery, you know. But some don't, which means that when you put it in the radio, it doesn't fit well. It doesn't work. But you know what, Prasad? Take aluminum foil and do a little button yourself and squeeze it in. It's going to work. Does Canada post speed limits in miles per hour as well as kilometers per hour? I was reading many U.S. drivers get tickets there because of difference. No, well, here in Quebec at least. I can't say for everywhere in Canada, but here in Quebec, we don't have miles per hour. It's kilometers only. So on the road, you'll see 100 kilometers per hour, which is 60 miles per hour. Linux DOS. I wonder if one can add a board to shortwave receiver that adds sync detection. I haven't seen really a lot of that, honestly. Danny Shortwave says, my 200 vehicles had very good AM radios, never had an issue. I have picked up Cuban stations from Yonkers, New York. Wow. Clark Gilson, nice to have you on board from snowy Wisconsin. Emily 30 came in the mail today. Quick question. Does it matter how high I need to mount the antenna for optimal reception? Technically, okay. If it clears, you know, if there's no buildings around it, it of course is better. Meaning, if you have high buildings around you, being higher and it might actually help because a lot of the houses might block the signal. So if you put it in your backyard, for example, and it's lower than your house and not far from it, actually your house might block some shortwave signals and some signals you might want to listen to. So they kind of say, well, it should be higher than your house if possible. But at the same time, like when I got the W6 LVP loop, what it says is if it's clear enough distance from the houses around you, it could be just like, 12 feet. You put it 10 or 12 feet above the ground. It's high enough to actually work. Apart from the fact that the buildings around it might actually interfere or block signals, the magnetic loop antennas don't need to be put very high. There's no advantage in having the loop, 30 feet high rather than 10 feet high in general. And as for the orientation, having a rotor to actually turn it into to tune the signals on medium wave, medium wave and long wave, because these signals will be very, very directional. But the best install is mostly to simply put the antenna and the orientation that gives it the less noise. That's what I would do, Prasad. That's my tweaking thing. Using aluminum foil. I use aluminum foil for all sorts of things, and that would be one. Using you create a little, bump or a little button of aluminum foil compressed, and you squeeze it in with the battery. It's gonna work. I'm sure it's gonna work fine. Like there's this option that says they need to put HG radio in all new vehicles. That it's only on some. My new Nissan only has analog AM FM. MJF official. Hola. Muy bien. And nice to have you on board from Argentina. Soy de Canada. Montreal, Canada here. Nice to have you here. Mark Steven loves the 1860 650 batteries. Yarabamba, nice to have you here. Brought my shortwave radio to my office work, which is in a lab setting. There was too much interference. Any tip to reduce it? In a environment, a work environment where there's a lot of like neon lights and fluorescent lights and all sorts of things around, it's almost impossible to reduce the noise from within, and you would have to put an outdoor antenna with shielded coax coming into your lab in order to reduce it. And pretty much everything with that is a business or a big company is probably one of the worst places to have a shortwave radio, honestly. So MGF official, this channel talks of shortwave radio, pretty much. Take care, Brett Wayne. It's nice to have you on board, as usual. So this is a channel about radio, shortwave radio, AM radio, all types of radio. MGF official. Linux DOS says, I got lots of ferrite cores on stuff around here. I got 2 fluorescent lights, and I shut them off when I'm doing any shortwave listening. Rob, here listening and reading all the comments. Always enjoy listening. Cool, Rob. Nice to have you here. Take care, Mark Stevens. Take care. So a few questions that I want to answer that come from, so Elizabeth has one question that is interesting. So the first question she has is, why do we have pirate radio stations? What is the point in basically having pirate radio stations on the air? And so pirate radio stations is a unique thing. It's the reason behind pirate radio stations most of the time is that they want to have a voice. They want to be heard. They want to be received. So different types of pirate stations actually exist. So there's the ones that have, something to say. They want to talk about what they want, and they have no outlet. And radio is one of them. And it keeps them, for the most part, an FM radio pirate and stuff like that, it's not that, it's kind of easy to find you. But on shortwave, you're pretty much anonymous as a pirate station guy, And so you can voice your mind of what you want to say, talk about what you want, and nobody knows who you are, There's one way here. There's a big chunk of the pirate community that thinks that the airwaves shouldn't be governed by our own governments. They shouldn't be controlled, and you shouldn't have to pay a license and blah blah blah. The reason behind licenses in pirate radio, in radio in general, of course, is to keep kind of the chaos out of radio. I mean, if there would be no licenses and everybody could just get on the air, imagine what you would have. It would be like CB radio all over the frequencies. But at the same time, part of me does agree with one thing. It's too difficult for somebody to have and operate a radio station with a decent, if you have no budget, for example. So that's something that you might want to think about, and it's awfully expensive for anyone to operate a station now on AM, FM, whatever. And of course, there's the tech enthusiasts of radio that are just there and want to do their own stuff and are thrilled or happy just to know from where the program is coming from. So of course, that is the other side, another type of pirate that just wants to see people from all over the world sending in reception reports and so on. So there's that's a lot of what pirate radio is all about, honestly. Take care, Gaetan Belil. Always nice to have you on board, and hope to see you soon. John Root says, is amateur TV big in Canada? Not really. I remember there was a pirate station, a TV, like an amateur TV station here in Montreal for a while. And but it's not something that's very I've not seen much of that here. Not much activity in that side of things for sure. Rhino 10E. Is there still a channel on YouTube, Two Hands on the Radio? Nope. He's decided that he removed his videos and that he didn't want anything to do with it anymore. He's gone. Yeah, that's normal. Jingbo Wong. So you listen to amateur radio operators. That's normal that you often hear only one person. And the reason why, one of the things that happens when you listen to ham radio operators is often you're listening to, so you'll get a one ham. That station is, for example, maybe already 1,000 miles away from you, and you hear that station, and propagation makes it that station and the other station are hearing each other, but you might not be in the same propagation pattern. So the other one is hearing the station, but you're not hearing the other station. So you're hearing only one of the ham radio operators. That happens very, very often. And it's normal. It's because of propagation. To really know if it's because your setup is not good, you would need to have a ham radio operator that is like in your city. So if I hear, for example, a ham radio operator in Montreal or around Montreal making contacts, sometimes I'll stay on that frequency because most of the time I'll hear what that station hears, because the propagation characteristics of shortwave are the same for him and me. We're close together. But on the fact of listening to a lot of ham radio operators, because they are already far away most of the time, well, that makes that pattern very different from them and you. And that's why you don't necessarily hear the other station when you hear a ham station. So depending on propagation, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And it also is very dependent on the band. For example, On 80 meters, often you hear a lot of them or 160, like 3.5 megahertz, 3.7 megahertz, or 1.9 megahertz. You'll hear both because that's more of a local band, and so all the stations are kind of closer. But on 20 meters, like 14 megahertz, or 15 meters, 21 megahertz, now you're probably listening to a ham station that's very far away already, 4,000 miles. So you are hearing that station, but the other station has a contact with him because propagation works for that area, but it doesn't work for you and that other stations you don't hear. It's a complex thing. Propagation is very, very special and complex issue. And but it's normal to not hear the other reply, for example, on a ham signal. Question number 2 from Elizabeth. So Elizabeth is asking why. So, okay, why of pirate radio? Now, her other question is, why do some people become AM radio operators? So that's also another interesting question. So why do some, and actually the question is, why do some wanna and some don't? You know what? We are not all the same. I mean, I talk a lot. I do these live shows. I'm a blabbermouth. So being a ham radio operator, I would be operating on voice probably because I want to talk to somebody. I don't want to use a computer with a digital signal to talk to someone. And it all goes with that. So what makes somebody become or not a ham radio operator? Well, a lot of people are happy and content to just be listening, and they don't want more. It's been like that for me for ages. And you know what? I will become a ham radio operator, and I'll try to do this year. But honestly, I've never felt and I know when the day I'm going to be a ham radio operator, I'm going to be very happy, and I will probably do contacts and have fun. But it's not been I didn't have that calling. Basically, listening was enough for me most of the time. Also, ham radio operators, you want to become a ham because you want to participate and be more. You want to be a voice. You want to be transmitting, and you want to, you don't just want to listen. A lot of hams are hams because they don't just want to listen. They want to do more, and they want to try different modes, and they want to see where they can be heard, and all sorts of things like that. And there's so many aspects to amateur radio. Amateur radio is very, very large in the types of people that are ham radio operators. Some people love electronics and want to design stuff and design antennas and will make their own circuits to do all sorts of things with their amateur radio equipment and gear. And so it really is something unique to everybody. There's a lot of ham radio operators that became amateurs but don't use their gear. They're just listening in. That's all. They don't transmit. So it's very dependent on, I think, the personality of everyone, how techie you are in the radio sphere. And, some people don't like to really necessarily make contacts. It all depends. Everybody is different on that. Everybody is different on that. Of course, that's for sure to see Johnson that hams love radio, and that's for sure. That's for sure. Michael Mora, nice to have you on board from Colorado Springs, Colorado. What else do we have? What else do we have? What else do we have? Okay. Matt says, I got into ham radio primarily to learn more about improving reception and learning tips and tricks for finding RFI, but it's fun to make contacts. Everybody, I think there's almost as many reasons to why you become a ham radio operator as there are reasons, and as there are ham radio operators out there. Everybody goes into it for some reason. A lot of CBers became hams because they loved that. They loved the fact that they were transmitting, and they wanted to have more capabilities, you know, um, more possibilities than just what CB was giving them. Some people are listening to shortwave, find it cool, find it really amazing that there's you're getting contacts and you're listening to stuff from all over the world, and you just don't want to be just a listener. You want to participate in that. So there's so many reasons why you want to become a ham radio operator. And one of the things that also is, and to never forget, is that in times of huge problems of catastrophes of all sorts, is the fact that they can help out and be there if there's a disaster. We had that great example here when we had the ice storm of '98. Without ham radio operators, man, it would have been complicated. The ham radio operators were here to actually, help out, because the regular ways of communications of the police and so on, just, couldn't cope. Joe says most of the ham activity I hear is guys looking for someone to talk to on their way to and from work or while running errands. It often ends with "Okay, at my destination." Yeah, on 2 meters and stuff like that. It's often like that. But some people just another example. Some people like to talk. They like to just have something to say to somebody else. But there's a lot of different types of amateur radio operators. Canadian Prairies Shortwave. Thank you very much. Says this is simply the best channel for shortwave listening. Keep the good work. Thank you. Nice to have you here. Casper Peterson. Nice to have you here, my friend. John Smith. Hey, John. WA7IIC. A ham that enjoys shortwave very much. On my RSP1A, I find myself cruising all ham and broadcast bands. Cool. John Root became one because he likes to talk long distances. That's the thing. Because, when you start looking at the possibilities, when you listen and you hear people from far away, one of the first things that happens is that you also want to maybe talk to people far away. When you think about it, it's cool thinking that you have a radio, little antenna, little radio, and you just talk and somebody's answering back from another country. Kind of cool when you think about it. It's just amazing. And it's a wonderful hobby, and it's a I'd say it's a way to actually add pleasure to your hobby, not just listening in. You're also, participating. You are actually doing something. One last question that Elizabeth has is about correspondence. So she never wrote to a shortwave station ever in any form or any way. And of course, her disabilities are not helping here. But she was wondering if stations today are still has they still have a reason to hear from us and get reception reports like in the past. And she says that one of the things that comes to mind to her is the fact that with online SDRs, you can actually listen to a shortwave station. So that means a station could actually listen to itself from an SDR to know if they are heard in a certain country, which is totally true. So she says, is it really required today that we actually send out reception reports and so on? So that question is good because yes, it's true that today the need for reception report is not necessarily as important as it was 40 years ago, when there was really no way of knowing, unless you get a reception report, how well your signal was. But that said, depending on the station, I still understand and I still see that some stations still want these reports to know that they are being heard. So that means that some stations still rely on reception reports to understand that you're being received in a different country or your target area. As for correspondence, I think it's still very important today, because stations without your letters, your emails, have no idea if you're out there. Here we go. So, I mean, we're talking at the beginning of the show at Voice of the Report of the Week that's asking for reception reports. It's very simple. Without reception reports and letters, they don't know if you are listening in. So reception report is another way of knowing somebody's listening. And stations don't know we're there if we don't take the time to write in. That's why I was saying, tomorrow, World Radio Day, why not take the time to actually write to a station? Let them know that you are listening in, you know? What else do we have? Oh yeah, absolutely, Joe. And 9/11 must have been one of the times when, yeah, it was very, very important to have AM radio operators contacts, for sure, because everything gets overloaded. Police, emergency services of all kinds, all of their services get totally overloaded in times when there's a real big emergency. John Smith, nice to have you here. Matt says, when we had a blizzard last March, there were a lot of activity in the VHF and UHF bands as they help find stranded motorists and direct help. So, Matt says that guy in Finland later posts a video saying hams are useless on emergency situations, and that's exaggerated. Well, it's not. It's not. It's actually, it just gives us a perfect idea that guy, Matt, doesn't even know what he's talking about. Because if he doesn't see that possibility, come on, you okay? You don't understand what AM radio is capable and what it could do. Here, when we had the ice storm of '98, everything that was transmitting was down. The power was down everywhere. They just couldn't keep up. The only way that we were able to get help from point A to point B and all of that, and get emergency communications in from, okay, well, there's something happening in that part, and we need this, and we need food, and we need clothes, and we need whatever. Well, all of that, and for weeks at a time, because part of the province was without power for a long time. Ham radio operators were around the clock, actually communicating and giving all the details, and finding all the people, and calling in and saying, hey, we found that person that everybody's wondering if she's okay, and all the emergency help that was around. These nets were so vital, because the regular emergency services just couldn't cope with all of that. And that's where if there's one side of amateur radio that we We need to, and that's the side that I always say needs to be promoted. We always say, well, young generation think that that's useless. But I'm sorry, but if a ice storm of '98 would happen today, and I was talking with Sheldon with that a few weeks ago, we would still be in the same trouble that we were in 1998. Nobody learned anything out of that ice storm. And I mean, it was a really amazing ice storm. I will never, never forget what I've seen and how it was. It was just crazy. And I mean, ham radio operators were at the forefront of helping. And I think that's where maybe we should today kind of focus, because it's difficult to have people understand why ham radio operators are important. But, in an ice storm of '98 that would happen today, I mean, no power, there's no internet. And with so much ice and so much problems, a lot of the cell towers would be down. Your phone wouldn't work half of the time. That's where amateur radio is important. Because one of the biggest problems, I think, right now, we all think we're safe and everything's nice and the internet works and the power's in, and why do we need anything else? Because I mean, today emergency. I was mentioning that as a comment to Sheldon also. One of the things that I find sad here in Montreal is the lack of a real 24-hour news station. We don't have that here in Montreal. We don't have that anymore. It doesn't exist. But you know what? When a disaster, when something happens, a 24-hour news station is good because there's somebody there and we know what's happening. When that power goes out, you have no more internet. Okay, you have your cell phone, but still, you know what? Having a radio that just battery powered, that will work for days, because your phone, say your power's out for a week, I don't think your phone's going to be working well in a week. I think after about 24 hours, you won't even have batteries anymore in your phone. So that's going to be gone. But a battery powered radio that will work, most of the battery powered radios work for months before you change the batteries. And it gives you that possibility of listening into the news and what's happening. So I think radio is still important today. But here in Montreal, we have a lack now of any news station. What we have is a joke. Something bad happens, no one's there to do anything or talk about it. I remember when I was young, when we, as a teenager, I remember one big power outage that we had. The news came from the radio. We turned on the radio and listened in until 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, somebody popped up on the radio and said, okay, here's the situation. We have that type of problem happening right now. And unfortunately, I think we have some nice technologies and everything's great, but we think that all of that is going to work great in times of emergencies, and it's not. Ron Hicks recently written a lot of handwritten reception reports, and I've got some nice handwritten replies. Cool. That is nice. That is nice. There's something special. I mean, I often, I write, by email when I write to a station, but I got to say, getting a nice reply through the postal mail in my mailbox, there's something special about that. RJDA Dakota, nice to have you here. Organizations like MoveOn use 80-meter band as a platform, a forum. I listen to 80, like 3916. They have a trivia game they play. Just listen. Really like the information quality. Ecadarius, good evening. Nice to have you here. Gilles Nouveau, nice to have you here, my friend. Email for what, Gilles? Everybody's doing pretty cool tonight. Icadarius, I think so. Did he delete his channel, Danny Shortwave? Really? Oh, man. What a jealous guy. That guy was jealous because, I don't know. It's sad because, that guy, I actually was subscribed to his channel at first because he had some really nice information there. And I had subscribed to him until he, of course, took one of my videos and ranted back and started saying that I don't know what I'm talking about. And, it's sad because it's a guy that when you look at it, just can't, he came to some of the Facebook groups and all he did was what? Treat people like trash. Belittle everybody because they asked a question. That's not what we need in our hobby. We don't need people like that. We don't need people that make you feel bad because you ask a question. We're here to help, and for some reason he's jealous that I was more popular than him. Some people get real jealous. Of course, somebody asked me the other day if I was looking at my competition on YouTube. Of course I do. It's part of my drive, honestly, to look at other people doing the same or similar things that I do, see how many views they have, how many people watch their videos every day, and so on. How many subscribers? Of course I do. There's part of that is I have a little competition side, honestly, on my on who I am. I remember a friend of mine. We used to play games, and he would tell everybody, "Joel is a guy of competition." So if you play games with Joel, he doesn't want just to play a game. He wants to win. And yeah, somewhat, and I'm not a sore loser. I mean, if I don't win, I just don't win. But if I am in a game of something, of course I'm here to win. And YouTube, I is a part of it for me, and part of it is a competition. Seeing how much views I got compared to the other guy there, and seeing, oh, he's got a new channel and look at the views he's got. Interesting. And always, kind of doing something. I remember one of the channels, the radio channels, the guy coming up to me and says, "Man, I was looking at your channel, Jill, and I was hoping to try to, bump up my views and get to your level." And he said, man, I started bumping up my views. You're bumping up your views and even faster than me. So it's like I can't reach you. Well, part of the reason is I do look around and it's kind of it's a fair play competition. I like I always say, anyone with a YouTube channel is welcome to promote that channel as long as you promote it to me. Like on the Facebook group, for example, anybody that has a YouTube channel that deals with radio, tell me, okay? I'll promote it. Don't promote it yourself. I don't like somebody that just goes on the Facebook group or whatever and here and say, "I've got this channel, come and watch my channel," because I never did that ever in my life. And here's where I am. I am so happy to promote anybody's radio channel, but just tell me what it is. I'm going to go take a look at it and I'll make a YouTube video, and I'll be happy if you get new subscribers and everything. So, I'm not I do have a competition side, but I'm not the type of guy that, wants to move ahead and leave everybody behind. If I move ahead, I like to it's if I can help you move ahead also at the same time, why not? It's kind of cool. And it gives you more of a reason to do videos. So if I have a radio channel that like beats me, well, it's going to give me more reasons to work harder and maybe make better videos and more videos. It's like that. But it's sad to see that some people are, I don't know, some people expect something out of YouTube that is um, not necessarily the right reason. I was at the bar on Sunday having a beer, and somebody, um, when the guy knows that I have YouTube channels and all, and he doesn't know anything about YouTube. And the first thing that he said is, can I do a YouTube channel and put stuff on? And what I told him is, you know what? If you want to do a YouTube channel, go ahead. And by the way, anybody right now watching or watching after when it's recorded, you want to do YouTube channel, go for it. Go for it. But do it for fun. Don't expect too much out of it. Do it for fun. And you'll see. Who knows what could happen? Who knows? You could make it bigger and maybe get it monetized at some point. You know, it's but the important and the basic thing is to just have fun. You know, post whatever you're listening to, or post your radios and talk about stuff. Make it your own thing. Find your own way of promoting or talking about a radio. You know, and just just be happy and have fun doing it. That's the first thing. And who knows where it's going to bring you? Who knows? John Root, how do I pull a Hamilton, Ontario station and guess the Tiger Cat CFL games? Well, depends where you live, and that's for sure. And then their best bet, of course, is AM stations. Commando 602, is there a way to hear pilot to ATC tower communications on shortwave? I don't have a scanner. There's tons of air communications on shortwave, Commando 602. Gander, New York. There's Shenwick. There's so many stations in the Pacific. There's what is it? San Francisco. There's a lot of air tower to plane communications, air traffic control over the Atlantic Oceans on shortwave. The best information you should get for that is just type HF Aero Communications, and you'll come across tons of websites that give you frequencies to listen to. You need a receiver that is capable of single sideband. And of course, having an outdoor antenna will, of course, help you more. But I mean, I hear communications, aero communications all the time. Rick Robbins, nice to have you here. Matt says, I wonder if you got a bunch of blowback for that video. It was so logically flawed, but I knew that if I said anything, I would be blocked. Oh, yeah, he's got zero tolerance. Absolutely. Linux DOS says, some graduate from CB radio to shortwave listening. Absolutely. Well, you know what, C. Johnson, I don't know in the US, but here, Channel 9's emergency CB channel has absolutely no more. There's no more activity, nothing happening. No one is monitoring Channel 9 here in Canada, I believe, anymore. And the 90s is the last time I heard somebody that was still on Channel 9 emergency. And the thing is, for emergencies, is that ham radio operators actually contact bigger distances, especially with the help of repeaters. Joe says the availability of inexpensive radios should revive the interest in ham radio. Yeah, the problem is most of them are, most of the young generation don't see anything interesting in radio. That's the big problem. That's the big problem. Oh yeah, absolutely. Some hams are VHF, UHF only. Absolutely. Brent says we were lucky here during the ice storm. Our local radio station ran 24 hours, keeping morale high and coordinated services. So there's a lot of planes of air traffic control, for sure. Joe says news from Boston: Bruins 3, Habs 1. Yeah, you got to tell me that the Habs are losing. Actually, there's a lot of frequency ranges for air traffic control. It's everywhere from the lowest frequencies for air traffic control are in the 2 megahertz range, but there's air traffic control stuff up to the 20 megahertz range. They are divided into bands. Let me just quickly go here. I'm going to give you guys a link. So HF aero frequencies. This is one of the great frequency lists. Here we go. Here you will have the major world air routes, more frequencies from North America, Europe, communications that go from to South America, Central, and so on. All the frequencies are in here. So here's the link. This has pretty much all the frequencies that you will want for listening to air traffic control. So there are some 2, 3 megahertz, some 5 megahertz, some 8 megahertz. There's some 11 megahertz, 13 megahertz, some in the up to the highest I've heard is the upper part of 17 megahertz, 17952, I believe, was the one I listened to. Canadian Prairie Shortwave. Speaking of ham radio, have a look at this toy, Xiegu G90. Yeah, I've seen that. It's kind of pretty interesting. Matt, I haven't seen any activity from that guy in any places at all. So I think he's just like, one of those guys that got frustrated and thinks that he's the best in the world and doesn't understand why people like me actually works, So what else do we have? VT Radio, nice to have you on board, Paul, in Vermont. So, I was subscribed to his channel. The funniest part of that guy in Finland is that almost so many people came here because of his rant video against me and actually became fans of my channel because one of the phrases he used, come on, how can you not come and watch this channel? When one of the phrases he used, and I remember when I watched it, I didn't watch a lot of it because, he made me mad as hell. But I remember his phrase was, the guy from Canada that has the most popular shortwave radio channel on YouTube. How can you not go see the guy from Canada that has the most popular shortwave YouTube channel on YouTube? He's just telling you that's the most popular shortwave channel on YouTube. Of course, you're going to go see what that guy does. And so instead of actually like hurting, it actually boosted my views because people came here, saw my live shows and stuff, and thought, wow, this is really cool. So, it's just crazy. Just crazy. New books. Lived in Montreal in his youth, Pine Beach Avenue, many years ago. I lived in a farm also, Petit Bois Franc. Cool. KC9KUH, nice to have you here. Prasad posted a small video on Facebook for the World Radio Day. Cool. Well, Commando 602, it's always like that. It's always like that. There's always some dislikes and there's always some idiots that have no life. Casper Peterson would love to hear what gear you use in your setup and what program you use to edit videos. I actually use most of the edit or the stuff that I will do I actually use YouTube Studio a lot. When you start learning to use the YouTube Studio, there's a lot that it does. For recording my screen, I use OBS Studio for the videos. And so usually I actually use Wirecast for the live streams, but this time it's I'm using actually the YouTube Studio through Google Chrome browser for streaming. It seems actually it's better, so it's kind of interesting. So kind of interesting. As for the rest, I've got a gaming laptop. I'm using an Acer Nitro 5 gaming laptop for everything right now. And I do have my old Toshiba laptop which is converted to a Insider machine for Windows, but that's what's running the SDR Uno with my RSPDX software-defined receiver, and so on. Early Joe in New York, Channel 9 is still used for emergency stuff. Here, I believe that has stopped like at least 20 years ago. We don't have that anymore. Yep, amateur radio is super important. Alexandre Marcelino, nice to have you here. Wendell Daniels, ham radio will die in time if they don't drop the Morse code bit to get license. Young people will not interest part of it. Well, the Morse code is not a requirement anymore. You can get your basic licenses and even a more advanced license without any Morse code. So Morse code isn't something that is required anymore, and it's not that's making it go away. Ham radio is mostly dying because just like stamp collecting is dying, just like shortwave radio listening is dying, just like many of these hobbies that are perceived to be old man hobbies. Because let's face it, for the young generation today, these are old man stuff. And as long as they don't understand that one day amateur radio can save their lives, that's where I always think amateur radio needs to be promoted differently. We need to stop promoting amateur radio as two guys talking on a radio, because that's not appealing to anybody anymore in the young generation. They're just going to say, well, I do that on my phone. And they're right. And if you say, well, you're going to talk around the world, I do that on my phone. They do it on their phone. The way that amateur radio is promoted needs to be different. We need to promote amateur radio with real world examples of, you know what? There was an earthquake there and there's no power, no internet. and no cell. But amateur radio guys help with emergency services. Their knowledge of radio and understanding how radio works help in that situation. You got to give real life examples of why amateur radio needs to be kept. Because if you just have an old guy coming up to a young guy saying, "Look at that, I'm talking to the world on my radio," and he's going to just like look at you and say, "Duh, I do it on my computer," or worse, most of them will say, I do it on this. I don't understand why you should have a course to understand this and use that, and I just buy a phone and here I am. We got to bring it in a different level now, because you can't use the same way of thinking and of talking of the hobbies like before. It's just not the same anymore. The generations today, we were brought up where, in the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, the hobbies were pretty much the same. The hobbies didn't change that much. There were new things happening. In the 80s, we had that computer revolution thing where, oh, look at that, they're computers. Oh, there's a Commodore or a Sinclair or ZX81 or a Coleco or a Atari or the Radio Shack ones, the Coco 3 and whatever. But the hobbies were pretty much the same. People would do hobbies. Part of the hobbies were amateur radio and shortwave listening. We are amazed at all of that. But today things have changed. Joe says, I don't follow any other shortwave channels, live shows twice a week, and very reliable here. Who could ask for more? Yeah. I try to do my best. Hey, take care, Brent. It's nice to have you on board. Jill needs a nightbot. Joe says ham radio encourages experimentation, building radios, doing mods. Yep. Rob says, wonder if coin collectors are dying. My grandfather collected coins most of his life. He taught me a lot from collecting them. Just look around, Rob. And all of you guys, look around your family and friends. So when I was a teenager, there was not a lot of them. I mean, not everybody was doing that, but I knew somebody that collected stamps. I knew a ham radio operator. I knew a coin collector. And, not everybody would do it, but we knew someone not too far that did that. I know a lot of people, honestly. I know a lot of people. I'm a very social guy. Haven't heard anybody talk about stamp collecting, coin collecting, any of that. Which is making me think that all of these hobbies are also dying. It's not just an amateur radio thing. It's as if with the internet and what today the young generation we have, the hobbies like that are not something that are interesting anyone anymore. And when you find a guy that does coin collecting, well, it's an older dude, like ham radio operators for a lot of part. I'm happy here to for one thing, I'm very happy here to see that there's quite a few young guys that are in the hobby because they came on the channel and it's like, well, this is kind of cool. Maybe we just need that also. Maybe what we need is more visibility of all of these hobbies. Because I do think that if you look at, you know, teenagers today, I'm pretty sure that if you go around with, with all of them, we'll find some teenagers are going to find it cool to see amateur radio and what it is, or shortwave radio, what it is, or coin collecting and what it is, or stamp collecting. But somehow we kind of don't have examples around us anymore of people doing it. So the young generation isn't in that for some reason. Bro Weaver, the Texan PL990 will be the last Texan high-end radio. They did say they will not have others. It's not the last premium shortwave radio. There are other companies that will be making some, but Texan did say the 990 and H501 are the last high-end receivers they will do. Linux DOS. I'm not putting the internet. I'm not putting the internet necessarily at fault of the hobbies dying. Because stamp collecting, I mean, imagine all the information you must have on the internet about that. Coin collecting, same thing. Like shortwave radio or amateur radio. Internet has not killed shortwave for me. It actually is a great help that I would have loved to have when I was in the 80s. I think the internet has very little to do with hobbies going away. I think it's a shifting interest in general of what the young generation sees and does. And it's just different. I mean, when we were a teenager, okay, what did we have as a teenager? I mean, when I was 12, if I didn't have my friends to go and play with, when I would go at home, I had nothing to do apart from watching TV, really, unless I had hobbies. And I had hobbies. I love to build electronic circuits and stuff like that. So today, there's definitely a lot more things around us that are available, and the internet is one of the things that a lot of the young generation is going crazy on to do stuff. But I'm not calling the internet a something that is the reason behind a lot of the hobbies going away. I think it's the lack of knowledge that these hobbies exist for a lot of that. Honestly, we don't have letters today. People don't send letters almost. How can a young generation today know that stamp collecting is a thing when he maybe never seen a stamp in his life? Or, amateur radio? Well, if we're not there to show that it exists, if you never seen amateur radio or shortwave radio, you don't know it exists. And I think it's maybe more of a visibility problem than anything else. Sheldon Harvey, nice to have you here, my friend, from Greenfield Park, Quebec. No, it could be that also. Like Rufus says, one of the things also, today's life is very hectic. It's very different from the past, you know? Commando 602 as a point here, he says metal detecting was an old man hobby, but these days with all the YouTube treasure hunters made it cool, and now I see teens and young adults doing it. It's a question of having the visibility of something, and that the young generation look at it and say, oh, this is so cool, so absolutely. RJDA Dakota says about a decade ago, we had a huge tornado. It took out all the power in telephone. A lot of cell towers were down. Only our shortwave radio was operating on battery. Yep. So absolutely. Robert Glazier, nice to have you here. Says let's give a thumbs up for this show. Sheldon Harvey says with email, probably a high percentage of young people who have never mailed something. Yeah, and it's even worse. The young generation doesn't even use email. They text message. It's even worse. I'm actually one of those. I like to text. I never call anybody. I text them. But what's interesting is I this channel is an example that when young YouTubers actually get and see something on this channel, there's a small percentage of them that are like, "Oh, this is so cool." And I've got some young, shortwave listeners thanks to that. It's a question of seeing what happens and what it is. And remember, go back again in your young days. Who was a shortwave listener? Very small percentage of all of us. Most around that were like, oh, yeah, you're listening to that noise machine again or that noise box. I remember my brother saying, oh, so you're going to listen to the static today? I mean, we were a small portion of people that were really intrigued and interested in radio at the same time. Danny Shortwave, Radio DX says, I'm probably the only sports card collector in my area. Joe says, the sales of radio kits, you build a radio, are on the rise. Just look online. Many kits are sold out. You gotta have that hobby in your face and try to find the magic, There's still magic in how electronics works and how radios receive. And these are transceivers. The young generation don't realize that these are transceivers. They're all wireless. RJDA Dakota says, my nephews see me listening to my radio and I show them the things I listen to. They think is really cool. Mark Cope's getting NHK Radio Japan Relay from France on 6105. Nerdy Gray Fox, no problem. Nice to have you here. Just received a mail concerning my ordered XH data D808. Will not be delivered because of the coronavirus. No idea when they will resume. Yeah, a lot of that is happening. Joe Summerton Nuance says, I was with your opinion, Mr. Joe, but when I contested to a teenager that was a new ham operator, he is very happy with it, I think. I have some hope that ham radio won't die. I don't think it will die. There will always be ham radio operators. It doesn't die, but it's less popular among the young generation. That's for sure. That's true. Danny Shortwave, a lot of hobbyists have more than one hobby. Absolutely. But a lot of hobbyists will have many hobbies, often closely related to what they do. So, yeah, that's a big problem, RGDA Dakota. With a big a disaster, the internet will go out and people are just going to like, wow, okay. Joe says in the US, they stopped teaching cursive writing in the schools. These kids will never write a letter. Yeah. Bro Weaver, how to send Joe a metal detector that is able to get through customs. Well, it will go through customs. It's just, David Martin says radio propagation is like serving ping pong. First, you hit the ball with the paddle. Start of ground wave reception. The ball hits your side of the table. End of ground wave reception. David Martin says, then it flies over the net. Ionospheric reflection. refraction and lands on the other side. Yep. You got to find a way to, make it interesting. That's for sure. Icadarius says, enjoy listening to my shortwave radio when I have the chance. Danny Shortwave says, my brother Ed used to ask me, why are you listening to a station that you don't know the language? Yeah. It's like, I remember one of my first videos of listening to ham radio satellites. And it's not even ham radio. It was, I think, a Cosmos Russian satellite. And somebody said, that's boring. Why would you be interested in listening to a noise like that on a radio? And, how can you explain to somebody? How can you explain to somebody? Well, don't you think it's just so cool that with a radio in my home and an antenna outside, I'm actually receiving the signal, the radio signal of a Russian navigation satellite. No, I can't decode whatever it's sending. It's just darn cool to receive it on my radio. I'm receiving a signal from space. Just so crazy. But not all of the deliveries, because a lot of people are receiving their stuff from what I see. But there are some delays depending on where and how you're receiving your stuff from China for sure. Commando 602 says, I was actually introduced to shortwave ham in the 70s school electronics class. Our teacher was a ham operator and took us out in the field to set up antennas and radios with car batteries. So, Bro Weaver, now is the time for my Alex Jones voice. I am the Learn Windows 10 YouTube channel, Dan the Plumber. I am the guy behind it. Judy White 82, nice to have you here. New books. I translated a Russian shortwave message, and his comment was that his radio was like a tea kettle on stove, whistling. So, it's the biggest problem is to find a way to have the younger generation interested. You got to find that little something that generation is going to look at you and do like, oh, wow, really? And that's with everything. I mean, what makes you go to science, or what makes you go to other, fields of interest? It's it's really finding that spark that makes you just like say, wow, I find that so amazing. It's just crazy. And we need to find a way to oh, what happened here? Everything came and went for a second. So, Matt says, say, what's the record for how late a Wednesday show is gone? I think we have a one that is 4 hours, if I'm not mistaken. I think we had one for 4 hours. I think it's pretty much the longest that it's done for a Wednesday show. And I'm about, as you were saying that, I was about to start winding things down. So, at least what's cool is that is the fact that even after 10 minutes, I was able to do the live stream, even though it didn't work with the other software. Sheldon says, decoding signals off the radio using software and turning the signals into text might interest some young people. Yeah. One of the biggest problems with our shortwave hobby, both amateur radio and shortwave, honestly. Okay? It's simple. We didn't have the noise we have today when we started our hobby. And that um, that is a big problem. Noise is a much bigger problem for our ham radio and shortwave hobby than the internet is. I'm pretty sure a lot of ham radio operators left the hobby when that noise level became so high that um, that they just thought, okay, to hell with it. My DX is gone now. I'm not interested anymore. Pretty crazy. Cool, Icadarius. Slowly do videos, and you're gonna have fun. Have fun. That's the most important thing. Have fun. So hey guys, Facebook group. We have amazing Facebook group that you can join. We're not far from 500 members. Let me just check right now. We're at 493 members, and you can join in the group. It's a great place to be. Great place to be. When the live shows here end, well, you can go to the official SWL channel on Facebook and continue sharing with everybody. So here's the link for the Facebook group. And don't forget that it's fun to see your videos, your pictures of shacks, your whatever you're listening to. There's a lot of interaction there. It's really a lot of fun. Take care, Prasad, and stay safe. You also. Always nice to have you on board. Sheldon, of course, as he's mentioning, don't forget, cidxclub@yahoo.com if you want to have a sample copy of the Canadian International DX Club monthly electronic publication. And, of course, you can become a member. And every month, we have a new bulletin coming out. Lots of really useful information for everybody in there. The Messenger is a great publication. I'm the guy that has the utility column where we talk about all sorts of signals. This month, February, I'm talking about the Civil Air Patrol in the United States and how to listen to all of that. So, kind of a cool thing. Facebook group is great also. And, William Helms, there are a lot of trolls regularly. So, it's something that happens. It's part of YouTube and of the internet life. And don't forget, guys, if you like what I do, don't forget to do a little something, a little donation if you like. PayPal.me/shortwave, or PayPal donations can be sent to the Yahoo email that you see here, and patreon.com/radio and computers. You can set up a little something every month. Donations help tremendously. And, I'm taking care of this 2 live shows. I take great care and, being as active as possible on the Facebook group, making sure everything's all right. And if you think all of that is worth something, don't forget, you can send me a couple of bucks and it'll help me continue and pay for all the equipment and stuff. So, it's part of all of this. I spend a lot of time with you guys, both here and on the Facebook group. So we've been on for 3 hours and 30 minutes and a few seconds. So that's pretty cool, especially for a guy that was a little panicked with the live stream that wasn't starting. So I'm happy to have been able to fix that and be live. And actually, we're going to stay with this way of streaming on Friday. We're going to see if it's clearer and things are better for you guys also. So take care, everybody, and thanks for all the nice comments. But remember one thing, guys, there would not be any of these shows and any of this without you guys. You guys are amazing. Without you guys, there just wouldn't be any live shows. There just wouldn't be all of this going on. So take care, my friends. It's amazing to have you here. And it's really, really nice always to have you guys over here. So 73s, take care. Love you all. Next show is Friday. Don't forget, Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, 20 hours Universal Time. Bye-bye, everybody. Stay safe.